Welcome to the Horror Hangout, a podcast where film fans watch the best and worst horror movies of all time and talk about them. My name is Ben Errington, and today I'm joined by regular co-host Mr.
Andy Conduit Turner. Hello, Ben, and Happy New Year. How you doing?
Happy New Year. Happy New Fear. Happy
Oh,
Boo
Boo
Year's.
Year's Eve
How was your
has,
Boo
has been and
Year's
gone.
Eve?
My Boo Year's Eve was lovely. I spent it with a friend of the show, John Crennan, listening to some bands down the town. It was lovely.
Oh, lovely. What would be the most terrifying New Year's Eve is realizing that you've reduced yourself to putting the Hootenanny on, right?
Yeah, that's a Year's Eve
Boo
when that has
New Year's.
happened.
Is it true that the Hootenanny is recorded in September?
I try my best to think as little about the Hootenanny as I can. I
I did,
imagine they were there live because he counts down the bells, doesn't he?
yeah, that's what I thought. I did switch on the TV just for the countdown, and it was Rick. It was like a live Rick Astley show on
Oh,
on terrestrial television.
perhaps I've judged it too harshly.
I don't think that was the Hootenanny though.
No,
But yeah, your time. How's John Crennan doing? Is he doing good?
he's doing exceptionally well. It's as lovely as ever.
I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear it. So, uh, first episode of the year, our standard fare. We've been doing this. Have we been doing this every year since the podcast began? Like a yearly roundup episode?
I think we may have missed possibly the first year because we did a big Christmas countdown episode. And then because you were working on the top 50 horror movies from Empire at the time, I think
We
you did
just
a
carried
couple of
on.
milestones on that. I think it was like
Mm,
what have we learned from 50 episodes? I think was the first
yeah.
like special formatted one. But definitely the last, what, 3, 4 years we've done a
Yeah,
yearly roundup.
I reckon so. Um, and I like doing it. And I know last week's episode we had a little bit of a chat about films we've enjoyed this year, but I tried not to reveal too much because we were kind of listening to uh Kev and Aaron talk about theirs. But yeah.
That's right.
What
I was trying to keep my powder dry as well. I didn't want to give anyone any clues by mentioning a film that then there was a question about. So I was like,
it's true.
oh,
Very professional. Uh but yeah, I guess we've got to talk a little bit about the fallout of the quiz episode. 4 hours, a bumper long. I mean, is it the longest one? It might be the longest one.
might be our
Longest
longest one.
episode. Um, Not a minute too long though. I feel like it needed everything. It was an insane experience as always. But what I find we were talking about this just before, like I probably do have a slight advantage just because there are a few films in the questions that we've covered this year. Uh, so maybe yeah, I've got a slight advantage, but at the same time,
You don't know
I
what set you're going to get.
you don't know what set you're going to get, and like the cross section of horror. Like, there were some questions of like, whoa, there's no way I would have got that. And especially going up against someone like Kev, who is just an encyclopedia of horror knowledge. Um, it was great to be able to, and I cannot believe. Obviously, go back and listen to the quiz episode if you haven't. But I cannot believe I'm not going to give away the result, but I will say I can't believe I did as well as I did because I always go into it kind of going,
Feeling like the underdog after
but
that, after John
especially,
Crennan beat you that year.
yeah, but especially Mr. Luke Condor with a K, who has been mostly absent from this podcast this year, and he admitted he hadn't seen many new horror films. He's seen some, but he hadn't seen many. He was killing it.
Yeah. I think Luke is particularly good though at the background. I think Luke has a really good, strong knowledge of filmmakers, writers,
Yeah, yeah,
directors,
yeah.
things that I think he has a really good knowledge of those things. He's just got the type of brain that retains that information.
I was impressed. But yeah, such a good time. A very enjoyable time, and obviously amazing quizmaster work from you as usual. I'm impressed every year, Andy. Every year I'm
Well,
like,
thank you so much.
this is next level
And
stuff.
while we're saying thank you to everyone who sent in messages. A lot of regular listeners have been in touch that they enjoyed it. And I think Troy in particular messaged and said it must be a lot of hard work. It bloody is, but I enjoy doing it. It's a lot of fun to do it.
Yeah.
And if you've watched the picture round this year, I will indeed post those out. Maybe I'll post them out to Kev's video store so we can have them in Canada.
Oh yeah. That'd be amazing. But yeah, it's always a real feel good time. But yeah, I don't for a second take the work you do for granted that goes into it. Like I always know like how much work is going to go into it. But yeah, such a good time, such a feel good. I'm always a bit worried beforehand because I'm always thinking, don't make a bloody fool of yourself. Don't say something ridiculous. But
You never do.
we,
It's always good. You got
we
such knowledge under your belt at this point. You should
well,
start
yeah.
start owning it that you're an expert now.
I should be doing well at these podcasts. We're on episode 317 of Horror Hangout today. I think yeah, some of it's got to have sunk in, and maybe that's proof that it has a little bit. We had lots of great feedback messages. A lot of people saying it was great to hear Luke back on the show again. We even had some messages beforehand saying this is their favorite time of the year, their favorite episodes. A couple of listeners said that they'd listened back to all of the quiz episodes
In
prior
preparation.
in preparation for the new one. I don't think anything's going to prepare you for like 4 hours. But yeah, if you do want to go and listen to the quiz episode, there are time codes in the episode on YouTube and on Spotify and everything else. So you can see where the quiz starts, because usually it starts like 30 minutes so in
Yeah,
after we
but
do.
just best part of an hour because we had the everyone's annual roundup, right?
Yeah. So there's that, and then I've also put time codes in for like the rounds as well. Not that you wouldn't want to listen to the whole thing, but you know, some rounds you might be like, God, I absolutely love that round. I want to hear it right now.
Go and get one of your friends and family members to go. I know a 4 hour podcast is a hard sell, but if you go, tell you what, think you're good at horror, are you? Listen to this round. Get this.
Listen to this one, yeah, yeah, exactly. I've already quizzed some family members on the speed rounds. You know, some of their success was differing. My dad got a couple of questions that I didn't get right on the speed round.
Oh,
He pulled out Peter Cushing on one of them. I was like, ah. The problem with that, right, is I knew who I meant, but I've been reading the Fright Night or Origins book with Peter Vincent in it, so that when you said that, I
uh,
could only form the name Peter Vincent in my head, and I was like, don't say that because that's the guy from Fright Night. Um, so that's my excuse. I'm not gonna make an excuse for every question I got wrong. Be here
it
all
was
night.
it was a lovely time. It was a very lovely time. Thanks for playing.
It sure was. Yeah, so a new year of horror is ahead, but we're going to be looking back on the last 12 months of horror, mainly movies. Obviously, we've got 10 films to count down in our top 10 horror movies of the year, but we're going to break it up a bit, a slightly different layout for this episode. That's not the right word. Structure for this episode. So things like honorable mentions, disappointments, new discoveries, and we're also going to be looking at horror throughout other media, um, games, TV, books, stuff like that we've enjoyed this year.
Yeah.
And as usual, when we do the countdown of our top 10, if Andy, for example, mentions one of his favorites at number 10, and that happens to be my number 5, we'll kind of have the discussion at the point of number 10 when Andy mentions it, and then later on in the list, we'll kind of just go, oh yeah, mine's number
Other way
5, which we've
around,
already
we'll
talked
talk
about.
about it. The other way around, we'll talk about it at its highest point as the
That's right.
for
That
maximum
makes
excitement.
that makes a lot more sense. Thank you. Yeah, for maximum excitement. There we go. Um, and some things like this is when I was put my list together. There's a lot of documentaries I enjoyed this year. I've kind of left them out of my top 10 list and kind of decided to keep them in their own little section I'm going to discuss. I did kind of keep them in my main list, which I put together for movies of the year. But yeah,
The
and
amount of
we've had
documentaries you get through, you could do a top 10 documentaries.
top 10 documentaries list, but I just love knowledge. Uh, um, yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to another documentary I've been watching and what we've been watching. Um, and yeah, there were a couple of discussions about certain films being straight up horror movie, but we have decided on one or two titles that are going to be considered horror. And of course, if you don't consider them horror, fair enough. But I think, yeah, if
Yeah, live your life, but they're in.
live your life, but they're in. Uh, let's have a look then at the next bit we've got. So I guess we do like a little bit of news
Any
before we
news to
get.
start the year? Yeah.
Yeah, we got some news to start the year. So there's a trailer, there's a poster and a trailer for The First Omen, the prequel to the original Omen. It's going to be difficult when you're talking about The First Omen now. What Omen film are you watching? I'm watching The First Omen. Oh, what,
Oh, the first Omen,
1976?
1970. No, the first Omen,
No, no,
2020,
no.
2024.
2024. Yeah, so we've got a prequel to that. The Omen has been lying dormant ever since the failed television series Damien back in 2016. I don't think I've seen that. And now 20th Century Studios. So look, this is the another big franchise release from 20th Century Studios. Um, what have they released this year? The Boogeyman stuff and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, it's a comes along in the wake of the four original installments in the original franchise, the 2006 remake. Um, and the trailer teases the movie's approach. Seems to be about the birth of Damien, the Devil Child from the original classic. Um, but to be fair, from watching the trailer, it doesn't look like standard franchise horror fare. It kind of has got a bit of a classic retro, restrained look about it. There's some
Okay.
really good visuals, and it looks like kind of genuinely spooky and unnerving, almost like got a bit of a folk horror vibe in places, even though I know that's not exactly what it'd be. Because in a way, I was like the first Omen, all I can really think about is like, oh, a young American woman goes to Rome to begin a life of service to the church. I'm thinking the nun. I'm
Yeah.
thinking,
It's a
come on,
bloody nun, isn't it?
it's bloody Valak all over again. But this looks like quite stylistic. It looks quite interesting. Um, yeah, obviously I'll check it out. It's released on April the 5th, 2024. So nice to start the year with a new trailer. Always exciting.
I've not watched it yet, you know. I will. I will watch it because as much as I will probably talk at great length, I'm a little bit burned out on long running franchises.
Mhm.
Give it a go. It's nice to get out of the
Yeah,
house, isn't it?
it is nice to get out of the house. Yeah, occasionally, once in a blue moon. Yeah, and I will. I will go and check that out, definitely. And the other news I've got is the Blumhouse and James Wan's Atomic Monster have officially joined forces. What a word that was, to create a horror mega power. They've connected together. Lots of stuff on
Synergy,
Twitter
corporate
today.
synergy.
Corporate synergy. The preeminent homes for horror are now under one roof. Can you give me a little jingle for that?
The
The
preeminent
preeminent
genres of
homes for
horror under
horror
one
now.
roof.
It's
Cool.
called Blumhouse Atomic Monster, Blumhouse Atomic Monster, Blumhouse Atomic Monster. I don't know if it's got a different name yet.
There
No,
was a
Blum Monster.
long running argument at a workplace I had in my very early 20s where a
Oh God.
person who will remain nameless was insistent that it was there's millions of Jeffrey all under one roof. Makes
You
no
couldn't even
fucking sense.
you couldn't even buy a Jeffrey, could you? It wasn't like he
No,
was a mascot you could purchase back in the 90s.
there's not millions of him under one roof. Impractical.
Can I just confirm? Does he say there's millions, said Jeffrey?
Yeah, there's millions, says Jeffrey. Yeah,
Says Jeffrey.
yeah.
There's millions, says Jeffrey, all under one roof. Millions as well. Do you reckon there's millions? That's a lot, isn't
I
it?
guess if you considered Lego bricks
Uh,
individual toys,
didn't think of that.
probably
Lego
millions.
bricks, grains of sand in
In a
a like a.
sandpit, yeah, millions.
It's toy, Toys R Us go bust and then come back.
I think they're on the way back.
I reckon anytime anything goes bust, like I think I've mentioned this on the show before, but I'm going to mention it again. Wilkinson's slash Wilco.
Back.
Anytime anything goes bust and everyone gets sad, like the high streets die and everything's terrible. I just go, no,
Fucking go to it then.
it feels like the equivalent of someone announcing they're leaving Facebook. Right, that's it. I've had enough of you lot. Just me and the kids from now on. See you later, Facebook. 2 weeks later, they're like, does anybody know the opening times for the chip shop?
I love a pass-ag response. That let me just Google that for you.
Yeah, and you can actually do it. There's a link, there's a website, not Google. There's a website called Let Me Google That for you, and you just type in the thing they want, send them the link, and it Googles it for them. So passive aggressive. I absolutely love it. Uh, where were we? Oh yeah, so this deal. They will
Yeah,
work
corporate
at
synergy.
corporate synergy. They will work as separate labels to retain creative independence with a freeway ownership structure split by Blum, the majority owner, one, and Comcast, the parent company of NBC Universal. I think we maybe mentioned this on the show a while ago that this was going to be happening, but this has officially happened now. What does it mean for future things? I know that Night Swim, which we're covering next year, is possibly co-produced by them. It was the first one that I kind of noticed was going to be co-produced. Um, oh, okay, no, I think have been a few already, but Night Swim is going to be the latest one.
Okay,
Um,
so next week we'll find out if it's a good or bad thing, I guess.
next week, and that's it, and that'll be it. If it's bad, undo it. Just go,
Yeah.
nah, you're better
Go your
off.
separate ways, lads.
Yeah. What's this the equivalent of? What kind of duo? What kind of combination?
I guess
An
it's
unexpected, an unexpected duet. Lady Gaga and Beyonce when he did that song Telephone. Wow.
yeah. Both absolute players in their own world, but together,
Yeah.
is it going to work? Turns out it did. So let's see if it.
Turns turns out it
Let's
did. Or do you remember the Mitchell and the Mitchell and Webb skit where it was there were two comedy duos, one called Chip and Pin and one
yeah,
called Fish and some.
fish and chip.
No, but the one called Chip and Pin and I can't remember the
One called fish and
details.
chip, and it's like chip and
Pin,
fish. That
no,
no,
one called Fish and Chip, one called Pin and Cushion, because world was moving ahead. Chip and Pin decided to ditch the other two and get together, but they failed, and the other duo, Fish and Cushion, did really well.
good work.
Stupendous work. I always like to bring that up. I like to bring that up when I'm talking about when there's an awkward silence when I'm trying to buy something,
Do
and
got
they
fish and
go,
cushion.
they go, "Can you just put your pin in?" And I'll go, "Isn't it funny that?" And I just tell that anecdote and get escorted out of the store
Yeah,
minutes later.
good
Uh,
times. Anything else in the news? What else
that's
is
all.
cooking?
That's all I've got in the news. Early January. Everyone's
Yeah, everyone's
just
just
getting
getting
back
back to
to it,
work, just catching up on their emails.
catching up on the old
Have you
emails.
watched anything unconnected to this week's show since last time we met?
Since the last time we met, what have I been watching? So, I've started watching RoboDoc, the creation of
Oh
RoboCop
yes,
documentary. It's maybe like 4 parts, 4 or 5 parts. Cannot believe. I think we maybe mentioned it on the show last week, or recently at least. Like an hour and a half. Some of the episodes are. It only talks about the first film, which is mad to go into such detail for it. Um, but yeah, really good so far. Some lovely anecdotes about like it just seems like a load of stress bringing it together. uh, and there's loads of nice little behind the scenes bits. Like everyone who is anyone is involved talking about it. And everyone there's a lot of really good stuff. And I'm interested to digest the rest of it, all the other hours of But as I said, I like a documentary, and you could give
love a
me
lengthy documentary.
here's a 4 hour documentary on the making of something I hate, and I
Yeah,
go, I'll give it a watch, see what happens.
try it out.
Maybe I'll try it
I
out.
appreciate it a bit more.
Yeah. So I guess we're gonna have a more in. I'll give a more in depth review once I've finished it. Anything that you've seen this week?
Couple of little bits. Not sure I mentioned it last time we were together, but I did catch up from the week I was away. I watched Tales from the Hood.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
I agree
nice.
with your review. I've never seen it before. It was very good. I watched the Sacrifice Game, which was the closing film at Fright Fest this year. Is now on Shudder,
Mm.
and it's loosely Christmas based. It's set roughly around. It's at least as Christmas as Die Hard is.
You watched a
Um,
post. You watched a Christmassy film after Christmas had happened. How did that make you
yeah,
feel?
it's okay. I'm just checking the date. I watched on the 21st of December. Just didn't
Oh
talk
right,
about it
okay,
before now. So
yeah.
yeah, that was good. That was good fun. I watched a web series on YouTube called Bright Falls, which is a prequel to Alan Wake. Worth
Yeah, I was
checking
just
that
about to
out.
say that. Is this like to go alongside Alan Wake 2?
No,
Is
it's
it
previous to the release of Alan Wake 1. It's
wow.
literally the run up to them arriving. It's about 20 minutes long. It's decent. And for the first time this
Awesome.
week, first time ever, I watched The Ritual, which I know you covered on the show, yourself and Luke, way back. Did
Did
you?
we?
You certainly talked about it if you didn't cover the film.
Yeah, I don't know if we did like a mainline episode on it. Maybe we did. I mean, as I said, it's been 300 plus episodes. Easy to forget.
Maybe not.
No, I don't think we did. But
Oh, interesting though.
I have seen it.
Interesting though. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. How did you feel about the? Obviously, don't want to spoil too much, but how did you feel about the sort of creature design?
Creature design's really good.
Did it make you a little bit scared of like a British newsagents slash convenience store?
Nah, nah. Don't live in London. Do I live in a civilized place where everyone's
That's
nice to
fine.
each other?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So what did it? Oh, lovely, funny bit where that man wakes up covered in piss. That was funny. Um, yeah,
Can't remember
I,
that bit. Maybe I'll go and watch it again if I want to
I,
see someone covered in piss.
had a good time. I had a good time with it. It was really interesting. I think the creature design, the psychology building up, brilliant like setting and everything as well. So that was it's a
Yeah.
good little watch. And I'm
Nice.
midway through something.
Oh.
I've got the sleeve of it here, and as I don't have a background number, once I can show you to camera, I picked up a copy, physical copy of Video Shop Tales of Terror,
Oh.
um,
Yes.
a micro budget horror anthology. I think I've got one of the little sections left to watch. It's what you might expect from something that is made on a fan level. They describe it themselves as a micro budget piece. Danny Thompson, who is in several
Mm.
British horror movies. Most recently, you might recognize her in either Eating Miss Campbell as the head teacher's assistant, or you will have seen her in Punch this year as well. She was the barmaid, the
Landlady.
landlady.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So she is like a horror film star in it who sort of features across the gamut of stories. Um, Similar energy, but not like it's an anthology rather than a narrative like the last video store featuring
Mm.
your friend of mine, Kev Martin. But it does have that same sort of VHS store energy that you'll have seen in this and Scare Package, and it's a really nice way to frame horror stories, right? So yeah, I'm enjoying it so far.
Awesome. Amazing. Um, I have to check that out. She'd be a great guest on the show, wouldn't she? Maybe we have to reach out to her, see if she wants
To
to
get
join
on
us
and see if she
sometime.
wants to come join us sometime.
I
Yeah, she's
haven't really
certainly
seen an
got some great stuff to her name.
hmm. I haven't really seen anything else this week because I've been replaying Control. I've got the Ultimate Edition. I guess there are some like horror elements to it, especially in terms of the story. I mean, the story is top notch. It's amazing.
I really want
Like,
to get round to playing Control.
oh, it's great. Like the story is it's just so. I mean, yeah, if you enjoy Alan Wake, obviously they are connected, those universes, and there are some shared mythology, some shared like stylistic choices. But it's such a good looking game, and yeah, I absolutely love the gameplay, and the Ultimate Edition's got loads of DLC in it, so I'm just kind of trying to complete every single little
Might get on
detail.
and might get on and do it because it's one of those games, Ben. Guess what? I have had time to do. I've had time to buy it, mate. Don't worry. Got that sorted. Done that
So
bit.
buy it. I have bought the World of Horror game, the sort of like Japanese 8-bit. It's not 8-bit. It's maybe like 16-bit. I don't know. Sort of like horror. It looks like Junji Ito sort of horror story game.
Okay.
Um, so I've bought that, and I did list that on with the list of things that I've missed in 2023, and I want to play, but I've gone ahead and I bought it, so
So
I'm
you
gonna have to get
haven't
on that.
technically missed it now. You just missed doing it.
I just missed doing it, yeah. So I've got it now, so
Well, I'll tell you what,
I'll
Ben. We're
get on
doing
that.
the we did branch out a little bit for bonus content, looking at some recorded stuff. Maybe I'll get it as well, and we can do some sections of it.
Yeah, great idea, great idea. But that's it for what we've been watching. I guess we should move on to the main event,
Yeah,
2023.
let's get to the big. Let's get to the countdowns, eh? Now's the time. All the stars are
2023.
here.
All the stars have aligned. 2023, a year in review. So what I've got down, so obviously you put together a nice little interesting different sort of structure for us. And the first bit is kind of honorable mentions. Um, I'm not gonna, I guess because I've got like one, two, three, sort of like six or seven here. I'm not gonna say too much about them because obviously some of them we've reviewed on the show. Others were kind of from Fright Fest and stuff, so I'll just kind of explain briefly why.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you want
Oh,
to do like what? Do you want to like bounce back and forth?
yeah.
Do you
Let's
want?
do some
Or
round robin, and we both be ready to shush the other one if it's in their top 10.
if it's in the top 10, just shush the other one. Shut up.
Fingers on lips. Right. You can go first if you like, Ben. Ready to
Can
go.
I?
Yes.
I've got an honorable mention for Mafregan, Megan.
Oh, say no more, Ben. We'll talk about Mithrigan a little bit later.
Talk about. Yeah, I mean, all I'll say is I did really enjoy it, and it's something that I would like to go and watch again. It's a nice sort of introductory horror film, I think, for younger audiences. I don't think there's much blood and guts in it, is there? Didn't quite crack my top 10, but I guess I'll
Worth
explain
a
a bit more
mention.
later. Worth a mention.
My first honourable mention, I feel you might shut me down on this one. I think because its link to horror is not so explicit, but it was a phenomenal film, which I think is worth talking about. My first honourable mention is Raging Grace this year.
Yeah, that is in my top 10.
I shall
That is
say
in
no
my top
more,
10.
Ben. We'll come back
Do,
to it.
please say no more. My next honorable mention is The Last Video Store, starring Mr. Kevin Martin, obviously who we had on the show just last week. And there's an interview episode with me and him and the director as well. That's out there on all feeds. This was, I mean, it didn't quite crack my top 10, but it's definitely solidly in my. I usually do a top 25 movies of the year, and it's solidly in that.
I
Just
saw it in
because
your top 25, and that was all genres as well, right? So not just top 25 horror.
Yeah, that's right. All genres. It's cracked it there. Doesn't crack my top 10 horror for this show. Just, I mean, it easily could. Just, I love the heart of it. It's a really well made film, and Kev is like amazing in it. Um, and kind of off the back of that, honorable mention to Pareidolia as well. Obviously, we don't tend to, we're not including shorts in our top 10 of the year. But what I've kind of been really enjoyed coming together is obviously getting to know certain filmmakers this year, especially with Fright Fest, interviewing them, but then having them on the show as well, getting to know these people. And kind of like building something of a really decent connection. Like, it's been amazing having Aaron on the show, getting to know him. But I've also been fascinated by like the marketing campaign of this short film as well. Um, like all the events that they've kind of had alongside it, and obviously producer and director and everybody else. The cast are always getting together as well. It's just really great to see, and I'm really excited to see what comes next. Whether it's going to be a Pareidolia feature film or what.
Another one that's definitely worth a mention for sure. And I
Mm.
had last videos during my honorable mentions as well. But my next honorable mention, then I've just got three more to throw at you, is The Seeding, which I believe we saw together.
No, I didn't. I think it was you and Luke who went to see that. I missed
Ah,
out.
me and Luke on this one. So yeah, I expect people will be talking about this more next year when it gets a general release. It was a Fright Fest film for us, but settings were phenomenal, real world settings that I think were incredibly effective in building up the tension. It is largely set in just a large crater in the middle of the desert that our
Wow.
protagonist cannot escape from, imprisoned there
Yeah.
by some horrible kids. And he's
Bloody hell.
trapped there with this woman who's also mysteriously down there. And
Mm.
it's a lot about the relationship that goes on between them. There's some dark and horrific moments in there. There's some great psychology in there. But the thing I wanted to call out for, as you say, Ben, these are just glancing off my top 10 in a really competitive year, I think. But
Mm.
um, some of the performances, particularly from the two leads, um, incredible, like visceral, physical acting from both of them. Um, I think it'll go a long way when it sees a wider release, hopefully this year. And like we've
Awesome.
done with lots of these other films, then we've got to mention them. I will be looking closely when I start to see news of them being on streaming platforms. I'll be on here shouting about it and so on as well.
Hell yeah, yeah! I'm definitely keen to watch that. There's still a few things I missed from Fright Fest that I need to check out. But continuing on honorable mention stuff, I've still got a few more for Fright Fest, including How to Kill Monsters. I was kind of deliberate on this. It very came close to
Hold on
cracking
to
my
that
top
one.
10.
We'll be
Hold on to that one, yeah.
hold on to that one.
Yeah, and I feel the same. I'm going to mention the next two Fright Fest ones all together because How to Kill Monsters, Punch, Suitable Flesh, all great
Those are
films
my
to
last
watch.
two. Let's pull both of those together as we're
Oh
here.
yeah,
So
all
let's
of
do
them
Punch first, shall we?
great films to watch with audiences. Great British films with loads of British talent involved. Not Suitable Flesh, of course. I'm talking about Punch and How to Kill Monsters for me. Yeah, and some that I took away from Fright Fest, and they'll stay with me for a long time. Suitable Flesh as well. Another one that it's kind of fascinating to
Just a
see.
wild watching experience for us, right? Like in that huge screen, the first one we saw of the
First film,
festival.
yeah.
Um, and it's absolute madness. And since that, I went back and watched Joe Lynch's previous film, Mayhem. It's really good.
Oh yeah,
Mayhem's brilliant.
I need to watch that as well.
It's on
Um,
Shudder, or it was until I said this sentence out loud, which will have caused it to be delisted.
immediately. Uh, yeah. all really good times. And again, watching them with an audience, watching them on a big screen, really does kind of like make an event of the film, doesn't it? And I think that's why they were so impactful for me. Um, and yeah, Punch, like a slasher movie set in a British seaside town.
Yeah.
Hell yes.
Yeah,
Good.
for me, it's phenomenal that someone hasn't already done this, but it was
Mm.
really, really good.
I
I had a lot of fun with it. As you say, a lot like a lot of the Fright Fest films that we're going to be talking about. Great to have it with an audience, such a good atmosphere. And I
mm,
think you already mentioned it. Like, I'm certainly seeing as we've started to cover more in the way of festivals this year, and certainly doing one in person, we've been interacting with the makers a lot more. Um, you know, for right or for wrong, it goes a long way when you can talk to the people behind it and the reasons for making the film
hmm
really enhance your enjoyment of them. And they're just nice people. Everyone we met
Yeah.
there was really lovely, and I think that's really enhanced my enjoyment of the films.
Yeah. Most definitely. And I was just checking because Andy Edwards on Twitter, director of Punch, he has announced that the film Punch will be out January the 15th and 16th slash 16th in the UK slash US. So I'm not sure exactly where it'll be available. Um, I'm assuming, I don't know if he means in theaters or video on demand or whatever. So I guess as soon as we got more information on that, we'll be able to find out.
We'll get it shared. And then if you've met Andy, you can see me interviewing him about one of his previous films when he did a section of the Midnight Peep Show
Mm,
at Fright Fest Glasgow last year, maybe.
yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
we he did a section of that, and we did an interview with him on there, so you can hear me talk to Andy about
Mm.
that. And that's when Punch was merely in production, a twinkle in his eye.
Yeah. And then during the Fright Fest episode, we spoke to like three of the stars of it, as well as Andy, in the Cineworld Leicester Square foyer. So yeah, go and check that out. That was amongst the hustle and bustle of a
Old
movie
London
premiere,
town.
old London town. It was madness, but what a time, eh? What a time.
Yeah,
Um, and the only other I don't know if I brushed over anything there. The only other one I've got down is It's a Wonderful Knife. Now, in terms of slashers this year, I thought it was a great year for slashers. I was really into It's a Wonderful Knife, but there were a couple of slasher movies that pipped it to the top 10 for me. I enjoyed It's a Wonderful Knife. I kind of had an all right time with Totally Killer as well. Um, but in terms of like the slasher movies that had an impact with me, they're in the top 10. But It's a Wonderful Knife, worth mentioning. Just for the title
absolutely.
alone, I think. Um, and I did have a brief little section for us to just talk about disappointments before we get into the top 10. Now, I don't want to be super negative, of course we don't, but yeah, we'll always
You got
discuss
to tell it how it
positives.
is, haven't you?
Tell
People
it
come to us
the
for
prob
honest opinions.
the problem is, right? We tell it how it is. Some people just don't like that. All right? Some people don't like it. They can't handle it.
Afraid of
Whereas
it.
they're afraid of it, scared of the truth. And it's us. No, being silly, of course, but disappointments, Andy?
Um, I tell you what, my disappointments have been probably the things that have had the most hype for it, and I don't think this is exclusive to horror content either. I think franchise and well-known IPs have been the things that have really suffered for the last couple of years now
Mm-hmm.
under the weight of expectations, under arguably some of the safe bets or financially motivated decisions they've had to make. Halloween Ends was not this year, so we'll say more that no more than its name. Hellraiser was last year, which, for all its successes, I think could have gone a bit further.
Yeah.
Um, and this year, um, although New Scream was perfectly serviceable, I think that's
Yeah.
all it was. Now I reflect on it.
I've got Scream 6
Oh, and of
down.
course, The Exorcist.
Yeah. So Exorcist Believer for me was the big one because I kind of felt I didn't feel too confident about it after the trailer and the poster and like how late in the year we started getting these things based when it was released what in like October. And yeah, it just was I don't mean like it wasn't serviceable, it was just incredibly bland, seemed to mistake some characters from the original. Didn't seem to quite get it, did it?
No.
Which was disappointing. And Scream 6 for me, the reason I've got that down is because It was kind of serviceable, but it's completely forgettable. I can barely remember anything about it. I remember the kind of like ghost face museum thing, whatever it was.
Yeah, the
Remember
Ghostface
that,
Cinema Museum.
the ghost face cinema museum. But other than that, I don't remember anything. And of course, now the controversy surrounding Scream 7 as well. It's like, where does this leave the franchise? But as I mentioned previously, luckily we've had some really good new slasher films this year as well.
Yeah, maybe maybe that's the solution for Scream. You have to season of the Witch it.
Yeah, you
Do
do.
a
You have to
completely
see.
unconnected one where there's a mad bloke who is going to kill people with masks that teleport snakes into them.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
Scream. That's what
Do something.
Scream's up to now.
Something else. There's no Scream. Now there's just snakes on a goddamn plane or something. I don't know. Something mad. Uh, I mean, I've also got the Boogeyman down as disappointment as well, just because in terms of another big franchise, not franchise, sorry, but another big studio
Yeah,
movie, especially it was based on a Stephen King.
yeah.
Uh,
I mean, damning there, I guess, that I had completely forgotten the Boogeyman, even to put it into my
mm,
disappointments list. And it's not. I think the direction on it is really solid. The performances are good. Like Rob Savage is a director who has proven himself with his independent films that he knows how to do things that are scary, and he
hmm
knows how to really carry a story with the
Yeah, yeah.
performances he gets.
I think it was mainly because of who the director was as well that made me kind of think, oh,
Yeah,
I can't wait to see this director take on a big budget like studio film. And but yeah, just kind of
and I think technically very strong, but I wasn't blown away by the story. It felt very by the numbers, which you know it is what it is. I guess your mileage may vary.
it is what it is. And the last disappointment I've got down is Skinamarink. The reason I've got that down is because for all the hype online, film Twitter was going crazy, horror fans were going crazy. It's Marmite. You love it, you hate it. For everything I read about it and all the visuals that I kind of saw, I was like, oh, I can't wait to see what the hell happens in this. And unfortunately, yeah, it just didn't land for me. It wasn't even a cup of tea. Um, I think I kind of get why some people like it, but at the same time, for me, disappointment because especially when something like that comes out of the left field, I'm kind of like, oh wow, I can't wait to see what this is all about. And then it was just like bit boring. Maybe that's
I
just
think we said it on the episode. A great art installation, and I think it was a great. It can conjure a great
mm,
feeling if those are things that click with you. But it was already a short film, which
yeah,
I feel was completely
enough.
adequate. I don't think I needed a. It's not even 90 minutes, is it? It's like is it over 100?
I'm not sure. I'm not
I'll
sure,
have to
but
look. I'll
yeah,
have to look that up. But yeah, I if you love it, I think that's absolutely great. But in the nicest way in the world, with all the respect for the creativity and the craftsmanship of making it, I could not watch that again for fun.
yeah. I
And
don't
if I
think I
think
could
about
either now.
a normal cinema goer as well, like if I went upstairs and saw my wife and said, "Oh, we're going to watch a new film called Skinamarink," not only would I not get to choose the film again forever, I think I'd be getting divorced. She'd be like, "What the
Yeah.
fuck have you put on?"
What have you done? Is it started yet? Yeah, I love it. Um, yeah, I can't. Can you imagine like going to that in cinemas, but not just yourself, like because I think me experiencing it, I might be like, oh, I'm kind of running out of patience for this, but I get it, but still. But imagine like someone who's gone in completely blind. You'd be
Yeah,
fuming, wouldn't you? You'd be fuming.
absolutely livid.
Absolutely
Price of a
bloody
cinema ticket these
livid.
days. Expect something to
Yeah,
happen.
I've got a bloody large popcorn here, you know. But again, I don't want to be feeling like I'm shitting on it
No,
because
no.
I was
I
saying,
think
I was saying
anything
it's
we've said,
disappointment.
it was disappointing for us based on our experience versus the hype or the weight of the franchise or the amazing credibility of the creator. And I'll be the first to say I genuinely like things that people consider bad all the bloody time. But
Yeah,
I think you're right. Call them disappointments, not necessarily bad films.
yeah, that's it. It's disappointments for us as well. All all cinema goers are different, all horror fans are different. Uh, Me and Andy don't claim to be the authority on these things.
Yeah, I'm
We're
glad
pretty
all of
damn
those films that I said I didn't really care for
even
exist still.
even though we're pretty damn close.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, no, I'm just
absolute
being silly now.
authority.
Just being silly now. Um, so yeah, I mean the next bit would be doing so we're breaking it up in terms of our 10. So we're gonna do 10 and 9 now. Did you want to go first on 10?
Yeah, go on. Let me just count the list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right, number 10,
Imagine you had
Ben,
12. Yes.
is No One Will Save You. 2023's Disney Plus in this country.
I have
Brian
got it.
Duffield, you've
I've
got
got it
it.
down. I've got it down. So what are we doing? So if someone else mentions
If
it
someone
and I've
else
got
has
it
got
higher,
it, we'll touch it later when you get to the
okay.
highest one. So, shall we come back to No One Will
Come
Save
back
You
to
then?
it. Come back to it.
Yeah,
My number
let's.
10. My number 10 is Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. Please continue.
Please continue. Very nice. So I've seen a few people rate Thanksgiving highly. I think we had some feedback pretty much immediately. We've kind of put things on Twitter and Instagram asking people what their favorite movies are of the year. Stephen Christer says it was Thanksgiving. Stephen Christopher, sorry. I'll start reading his username. Apologies, Stephen. He says his favorite was Thanksgiving, fun holiday themed gore fest. I really liked it up until a point, and I felt like this with a lot of slashers, and I've mentioned it before, of course. When the reveal happens, I was a bit like but it felt like a really nasty sort of sleazy slasher film, 80s vibes, very silly, um, and just a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I kind of assumed it was going to be one thing, and it ended up being a lot more enjoyable. So, Thanksgiving, Eli Roth as well, a filmmaker who my enjoyment of is pretty limited, I would say, in terms of the films he's released. I'd never really been a Hostel man. Cabin Fever is all right. I don't mind the Green Inferno. That might be a controversial take. Don't like controversial takes.
Look elsewhere.
That'll be
Um,
the title of this video. It'll be like controversial take on Eli Roth movie brackets gets heated.
I like Green Inferno, and that's it. The end.
The end.
Um, yeah, I enjoyed Thanksgiving. It wasn't enough to crack my top 10, and maybe that's because I have no relation to the holiday. I've never been grateful for a thing in my life. But yeah,
You like a
I
bit of
enjoyed it.
turkey?
I think the kills are really creative.
Yeah.
I think I agree with something that Kev said when he joined us last week, that, and I won't spoil it here. I know we've got a whole episode of doing that. If you want to come and join us, go back in the list.
Hmm.
Um, I would have ramped up the dinner scene and then
Yeah.
maybe not
That's
had
true.
a finale in a big old warehouse.
Yeah.
But
Bit
but
generic, wasn't it?
yeah, that's being picky. I liked what we got, and I liked the who done it element of it as well.
Yeah. Uh, Number 9.
Number 9 for me, I'm safe in the knowledge that you're not going to ask me to stop because I don't think you've seen it yet. Number 9 was another Fright Fest one for me, but it is available for everybody right now, and that was Black Mold.
Nice. Yes.
Black Mold was another one where I really feel like I got such a boost in the enjoyment from having met with some of the cast and crew. So
Hmm.
the director John Patter, they found all of these locations. Just to give you a little thing, if you haven't seen it yet, so while exploring a decrepit abandoned facility, an auspicious photographer faces off against her traumatic past. And what this is a couple of photographers, a couple of friends going around, and they are doing some photography of abandoned places. Really stunning sign kind of location finding here, and speaking to John, revealed that all of these locations were just abandoned places that they found. So
Wow.
this isn't set dressing. This isn't a studio that's made to look like this. They have found these abandoned places, and it sounds like they had a phenomenally difficult time putting these things putting these things together. Getting power out to these locations, even so they could film in
Hmm.
these spots. And I think it makes for a really effective movie. And there are some really tense moments. There's some good psychological scares that are in there. I really liked the cast as well. So Jeremy Holm as the enigmatic man upstairs. He
Yeah.
plays a couple of roles in there. In kind of without spoiling anything, he plays different characters in kind of different guises, and it's really really interesting. Kato was CJ Mueller, who was there. We met her live in the at the location. Ever so lovely, ever such fun. Brings a good bit of fun and comedy to the movie in the short scenes that she's in. And Andrew Bales as well playing the male lead.
Hmm.
Really good range from being, it goes through the psychological ringer of being quite a happy-go-lucky, jovial person to experiencing real fear and then really starting to come apart as things progress as well.
Mhm.
Um, I just really enjoyed it, and it was a good one to watch in the dark cinema and focus on. But now, if Tubi is available where you are, Tubi been making big steps in getting horror that's available for free on that platform these days. You, it does not exist in the UK yet, but it is very, very VPN friendly. So if you put your VPN on, set it up with your Gmail account, when you think it's in the US, it's quite happy to let you to log in and watch that as well. I'd recommend, especially for that price, it's worth checking out.
Mm.
And it's my ninth favorite film of last year.
Amazing. Uh, Number nine, I've got down a Fright Fest film as well. Founders Day. Shall
Oh,
I
do
continue?
continue.
Do continue. Now, as I said, good year for slashers. The four that probably could have made my list: It's a Wonderful Knife, Totally Killer, Thanksgiving, and now Founders Day. I think Founders Day for me was the strongest. I know it's not out yet. A wide release. I think that is coming up. I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure on dates. But
You would
again,
imagine if it's Founders Day, bearing in mind what it's about, there is an election in the US next year. So will they time it around that?
there we go. That would be good, wouldn't it? That would be good thinking, good marketing ploy. Um, yeah, I think this was again enjoyable because we met some of the cast, we met the filmmakers as well. Afterwards, it was really cool to find out more about the film. But I just think in terms of like reveals, it was one that was very had a lot of layers to it. It was very nuanced. I think some of the kills were great. The mystery that unraveled at the center of it was very interesting. It was a nice social commentary. Some nice. I think the dialogue was great. There was some great characters as well, like really really memorable characters. And don't get attached to anyone because next scene they might end up dead. Um, so yeah, I think 2023 was a great year for slashers that aren't major franchises, and this was one of them. So that's my number nine.
Yeah. Join you with a quick comment on Founders Day. Possibly, and I'm only saying this looking there, my top 10 this year is really light on slashers. Normally much, much higher, bearing in mind the things that I
Hmm.
typically enjoy. Um, Founders Day is possibly my favorite as well, which is so wild in a year that there was a new Scream movie that this brand new one probably the
Yeah,
most enjoyable.
and I think I said that to the director, and the writer, even though. Hey, I'm not gushing too much, not just trying to impress them, but I was like, this is the one film where I'm like, blows Scream 6 out of the water, and mainly because Scream 6, where it falls apart when the reveal happens, Founders Day, there's like so much to it, and it's not straightforward. I think a lot of these slasher films try and be too straightforward, where they're like, okay, now this is the killer and this is why they did it, but I think that this was the reasoning and everything behind it, and the reveal was far, far more interesting.
It
Um,
was really
yeah.
interesting. Hopefully, people will get to see that later this year and chat to us about it then, eh?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, most
Do we
definitely,
take
and
a
we'll,
little aside at this point and do one of our
yeah.
other topics?
So, a little aside, now we're going to be talking about our best first watch, but I have also included the word rediscovery in
Oh,
this.
okay.
And that's mainly for me because the film I wanted to mention is a rediscovery, so I didn't want to be
Okay.
like yeah, what have you got for me?
Um, I'm just going to go through these quickly if you want me to dive into any of them. A lot of them have been driven by episodes that we've done this year. And we talk about this all the time. partially because of the film, partially because of the good time we have talking about them with excellent, excellent guests we've had this year. So things that fall into that category for me, Hell House LLC was a first watch for me this year. Quickly
Yeah.
devoured the rest of the series. I've still got to finish the newest one, but talking to Leanne about it was really fun.
Hmm.
Really effective found footage. I enjoyed Terrified when Ash came and joined us for her first visit to go through
I've got that
Terrified as
down as
well.
well. I've got Terrified down. Again, great episode, great guest, and like one of those films where I'm like, how have I never seen this before?
Yeah, so
Amazing.
so effective.
Super creepy.
Um, Mona Lisa and the Blood Moon, another episode we did
Yeah.
this year when Jalen came to join us.
Good shout.
Yeah, really, you know, I still wanted to mention it. Maybe not in the strictest sense of the word, a horror film. It's got some supernatural elements to it, but really
Yeah.
good, really enjoyable.
Uh-huh.
Like a good film to watch. Those are the last of the um episode driven new discoveries this year. The other ones, I'm not going to say anything about because quite a few of them I would love to do episodes on in the future. So, my
Yeah.
other new discoveries for me this year were Frankenhooker, Trilogy of Terrors, the second one, Night of the Demons, House of Darkness, and Scare Me. All great
Yeah.
fun and new
Good
discoveries for
stuff.
me in the last 12 months.
Yeah.
How about
Uh
you?
so yeah, Terrified I had down. I think Hell House LLC is a great shout as well. Again, a lot of these films more enjoyable once we've done an episode on them as well, and we find out everybody's relationship with these films. Um, so in terms of best first watches, Tales from the Hood was one that really
House
affected
from the Hood.
I find really, really great. Especially considering like my enjoyment of these anthology films have always been like pretty high, but I feel like this was so much better. Like it didn't have a weak section, which I think some of these anthology films they've always got like one section, maybe two sections, where you're a bit like, I could take or leave this. But this was great, and chatting about it with Adam Murray, obviously, who had met the director and had written a piece as well for the release of it. It was just really interesting to find out more about that film and a great experience to chat with him about it. Yeah, as I said, I put Terrified down. Best first watch of a film not episode related, I've put, and this would be great to do an episode on, Dark Water. Now, this year, a lot of my favorite sort of rediscoveries have been off the back of watching the J horror virus. Now, this documentary, obviously, I'm going to mention a little bit later. I've mentioned that, a documentary that we watched at Fright Fest, and we had the makers of that documentary on the show to talk about that. And a lot of the films that they mentioned as being like the big J horror movies, I went and checked out. Some which I was kind of like, yeah, that's pretty good. But it's not changed my life. Dark Water though, I was like, this is like perfection. This is like one of the perfect J horror movies. It just reminded me of so many things in sort of like horror media that I like. And a great human story. And one of the reasons my top 10 list is shaped up the way it has this year has been from how good the human stories are in these films. And Dark Water really felt like one like that. The human story was so interesting, and you were kind of like rooting for these characters, and some tragic events, obviously. So you feel real bad when certain things happen. But yeah, just like a rainy, dimly lit Japan with supernatural elements and some really genuinely big scares that are sort of like iconic that some of you don't see coming. But yeah, Dark Water was probably the one out of all of the ones I watched off the back of the J horror virus and the episode obviously we did with the filmmakers when we talked about The Grudge. Um, that was the one that sort of hit home with me the most. And yeah, I'd love to do an episode on that. I've got a few more J horror movies down to watch
Yeah.
this year as well, ones that I've never seen. So like Door, Cure. No, they didn't all rhyme.
Door and Cure.
Door and Cure,
More.
more, and things like that. So gonna be checking out more of those. And the best rediscovery for me, and I think I mentioned this when we
Oh, go
discussed it
on.
fairly recently, Bram Stoker's Dracula. A weird one that I feel like as I said on the episode, that I feel like I've kind of set aside for some reason, or maybe not given it its due. I reckon for at least 2 or 3 weeks, I was obsessed with Bram Stoker's Dracula. I was like listening to the soundtrack. I was watching making of documentaries. I was just reading all about it and stuff. And I was like, how come when I first watched this film, I was like, oh, yeah, that's all right. And then I watched it for the podcast. I was like, that's a bloody masterpiece. What am I
Yeah,
playing at?
I feel like I my consideration of it really went up because I feel the same. I feel like I watched it and goodness knows why at the time. The last time I watched it, maybe I'd come away thinking, oh, maybe it's a little bit dated now, or
Yeah.
these other things. And when I watched it back, I was like, bloody hell, this is good. It's so
Yeah.
good,
It
so well
feels
put
like it's
together.
got so many like classic horror sensibilities. Some even like stuff like transitions in the between scenes are like almost like universal horror sort of level, and it just really suits the aesthetic of it. And I think like the performances from everyone are like top notch. Soundtrack's amazing. Um, yeah, and I think it's just one of those films that is going to last long in the memory and is always going to be right up there when I talk about like my favorite iterations of that particular character.
Yeah, really, really
Dracula,
good.
mate. Dracula. Old
Dracula,
Dracula.
his lovely chocolate bunny outfit.
I want that. I'm gonna want that armor for summer.
Weddings. So where are we? Are we at your number 8 now?
Yeah, so if we go back into the list now, we're at number 8. Was it me going first? I think it was you going first.
Oh,
Was
shall
it?
I go first again? So
Yeah, go
my
on.
number 8. Not sure. I feel like you might be telling me to pause on this one. Number 8, I'm going to be talking about When Evil Lurks.
You know what? When Evil Lurks is my number 7.
Oh, should we pause? Let's not break the
Pause
format,
just a
Ben.
little bit.
Pause just a
Don't
second.
break the
What's your number
format.
8?
Number 8 is No One Will Save You.
Oh, in that case, we can talk about it because it was my number 10. Let's talk about No One Will Save You right now.
With minor spoilers.
Yes.
Uh yeah, just no dialogue. Well, pretty much no dialogue. And I pretty much knew nothing about it apart from the fact that there's some sort of alien invasion happening. Uh Home Alone with varying little weird alien people.
Weird alien
All
people having the shittest day at work ever.
having the
Because think that's
shittest
just
day.
their job, right? They go,
Yeah.
oh, just go and abduct this woman, will you? There's probably their supervisors like watching them. Go, the fuck are you doing? They're in so much trouble when they get back, and one of them's got like a little model church stuck in his head, and
Ah,
someone else has been absolutely like mugged off in the kitchen. It's a great visual movie.
yeah. It was a great. Is it a great like home invasion film, isn't it? And it's super tense, almost in the same way that like Don't Breathe is a very sort of like
Except it
visual
hasn't got a problematic
sensory.
old man in it.
It's not got a problematic old man trying to artificially inseminate anyone, but it's like a very sensory experience, isn't it? Where you're like,
Yeah.
and the fact that there's no dialogue and no one will save you really ramps things up. And yeah, I had a great time with it. Again, another film where I think I kind of only found out about it, like, oh, what's this? Everyone's going on about this film, and I was like, right, let's find it and stick it on, like that sort of experience. I didn't really know anything about it going into it, so
Yeah, Disney
a
Plus, right? So it's on there. Certainly
yep,
UK. I don't know what it is if you're elsewhere. Maybe Hulu if you're in the US.
yeah, Hulu, I think, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. I really
Hulu,
enjoyed it. I thought it was really good.
yeah. So that means my number 7 and your number 8 is When Evil Lurks, as
When
we
Evil
mentioned
Lurks.
already.
Yeah,
We've already
let me
mentioned
say,
Terrified, so
yeah.
from the same director as Terrified.
Yeah, and I think that as much as we astounded having watched Smile before we watched Terrified and then seeing its probably most iconic moment appear in an Argentinian movie a couple of years earlier, I feel like there are so many moments in When Evil Lurks that are going to be referenced and listed across the
Oh
board
yeah.
in years to come in English language releases. Even the poster, the poster, the red image that you've got of the woman holding the axe takes you back to some of the scenes. And I know we've talked about it on a couple of events. We've done small reviews of it,
Hmm.
but I think Luke hit it on the head last week when he's like, "Oh, I like to see a movie. I like to see a horror movie that after I step away from it, you think I've been tainted or something's been indelibly changed in me by watching this
I've been
film.
changed forever.
And I think this does that. There's such deeply disturbing visuals, whether it's the big giant man that's dealing with like the physical
Yeah.
ailments of a possession in the beginning, the piece with the goat. I'm not going to spoil it. It's readily available on Shudder now. You can go and watch it. But
Hmm.
there are some moments in that one where you have a fear that a certain thing is going to happen, and then it. I think your sensibilities as an audience member, you think, "Oh, that's going to happen," but it's going to happen off screen, or we don't. And then it happens, and you see it happen, and
Yeah.
it's horrifying. There were so many minutes when I watched that film where my mouth was literally like, "Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, that's
It
actually happened."
it's a very visceral film. Um, Again, probably another one where the ending didn't quite stick for me, but I think everything that came before it, I was so invested that it makes my top 10 easily, and really excited to see what the director um does next.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you're right. Maybe the falling at the end, perhaps a little bit, is because it's so hard to maintain that level of intensity for
Yeah.
so long.
I think
Um,
just like the sort of mythology, the rules of the universe were like a little bit confusing. I think that's kind of it.
yeah, especially when I mean, and we can't complain about this often because most films are in English for our convenience. Following it via subtitles maybe gets a little tricky for us. I guess the alternative to that is to learn Spanish and bloody get on with it. But
Just bloody get on with it, mate.
really, really, really worth seeking out, I would say. And I think you are going to
100%.
see the
Yeah.
visuals lifted for the next few
Yeah.
years.
Wait, are we at your number seven? Have you got number seven?
Oh yeah, my number seven, of course, because that was your number seven. My number seven, Ben, was we mentioned it earlier in your honourable mentions. It's time for us to talk about Mathregan. Um,
Oh, Mafregan.
this is my Terminator 3, Ben. I almost entirely neglected this because technically speaking, if you look at the letterbox, it's 2022, but it was a 2023 release for us here in the UK, January 2023.
Yeah.
Um, I just think it's a really fun movie. I haven't got around to watching the uncut, slightly more bloody version, um, but I just think visually, thematically, in a world where we're looking at advancing technology and robotics actually going into people's homes in a more realistic way now, I think
Hmm.
the performance capture on the Mathregan Megan character was really strong, and it's
Yeah.
fun, right? It's a fun, like it's quite a fun movie. That little
Yeah, yeah.
boy
It
gets his
was
ear
fun.
pulled off and then pushed in front of a car, had it coming.
Yeah, they come in.
Um,
Have your ear off, mate. See you later.
is a rotter. Glad his ear got pulled off. Um, yeah, I, it's been the best part of a year now. I might seek out the uncut version and watch it again because I remember having such a great time at the cinema, and
Yeah.
in a time where I am, and we'll talk about when we look about things we're looking forward to. There is very little imminent in the way of franchise stuff or follow-ups to stuff, horror or otherwise, that I'm
Hmm.
actively looking forward to.
Yeah,
I'm
there was a
looking forward
sequel.
to more Megan.
There's a sequel confirmed, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Megan
Yeah.
2.0, I think.
Megan 2.0, is that what it's
But what
called?
are we going to call it when there is a Mathregan 3? Just actually Mathregan.
Mafregan, yeah, I mean, it's got to be done, and they can't not call it that.
Um, yeah, I'm really excited for more of these because I think there's
Mm.
so many directions you can take it. It could become really interesting. And I had a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
fun with it. What were your thoughts though? Because we obviously paused on them earlier.
Yeah, yeah. As I said, it didn't quite make my top 10, but I had fun with it. Um, Definitely one of those films that I think culturally had a lot of a big impact. By culturally, I mean like the meme world had a lot of fun with it,
Yeah,
especially the dance. Yeah, I enjoyed it, and as I said, a good introductory horror for sort of like young audiences as well, if I'm remembering it correctly. But yeah, I think probably if it went in the direction of being a bit more like super violent and stuff, would it have been as um enjoyable? I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'd be interested. Maybe we should make a point of watching the secondary cut of it and seeing if it
Yeah.
improves or degrades our opinion at all.
hmm Okay, so the next thing I've got down for us is talk about our favorite horror TV of the year. This was quite tough because I don't think I watched that much horror TV. You might be correcting me now or make me remember stuff, but I've only got one thing down. Have you got anything?
I think we both what we pro I've got two, but I imagine both of us probably watched the same big one because we did a special episode on it.
Oh, remind me.
You've forgotten about The Last of Us this year, Ben. It's your
Oh,
favorite thing.
Jesus! No way! No way! Was that this year?
Yeah.
It feels like a lifetime ago, doesn't it?
Yeah. The
It
Last
really
of Us
does.
was it was huge.
Yeah,
And I am very rarely one to be watching a program concurrently as it's coming out.
yeah,
Um, I fall behind these things all the time. We'll wait until they're all out and watch them all. But The Last of Us was a week to week thing for me.
yeah.
And I
Couldn't
say
fall
this as
behind with it
someone that
now.
has no relationship with the game. Well, have the relationship where I've had time to buy them, but not time to play them. Um, yeah, I really liked it. And I know the big standout moment that people have talked about a lot is that is it episode three, episode four with
The the
John
the re-
Offerman in it, Nick
yeah
Offerman, sorry.
the
Um,
uh the relationship
yeah,
episode, the heart wrenching episode. Um,
absolutely phenomenal performances. I know there are elements in the world like, oh, it's got it's got people who aren't straight white men in it. How dare you? But um,
it's
uh,
what?
what?
Yeah, and
Yeah, so
obviously
like, yeah, there's
I love that. I love the discourse that goes alongside that because that just makes me enjoy it more. When I see people getting up in arms about something that they clearly don't care about, like people who clearly never played the games, clearly don't know anything about this world, getting up in arms about an episode based on homosexual relationship. I'm struggling to say it, and I always said it. I don't know what I was trying to say, but people get up in arms. It makes me like it more. And when Pedro Pascal tells them all to shut the fuck up and Bella Ramsey tells them all to shut the fuck up, I love it. And I love the
yeah,
fact that it's in good hands. You know, it's in good hands of the makers of the game. And Pedro feels absolutely perfect as Joel, and Bella feels perfect as Ellie. And I wasn't sure how it was going to come together, but now looking forward to season two, which I think is this year, next
ever
year,
so
next
slightly
year.
delayed, right, because of strikes and everything.
Yeah,
But I
I
believe it's
think so.
back in production
Yeah,
right now. Yeah, I really really enjoyed it. As I say, but despite not having anything other than a passing relationship with the game, I'm now just my head is awash with things that you don't care about in another world that you could just be outraged with. Like you could, it'd be like you, Ben, finding out that Alan Titchmarsh has planted daffodils next to bluebells and be like,
I
that
just don't want them.
doesn't.
Yellow and blue together. We all know what that means, don't we?
Yeah,
No.
bloody yeah, outraged.
Is he alive?
Yeah, phenomenal. Yeah, he's fine. Last I checked. Um,
Check in on him every week. Right,
what was
Alan.
your other one then? If you were surprised by The Last of Us, what's your other one?
I don't know why I didn't remember The Last of Us. I think when I was putting this list together, I was kind of like just really quickly went, oh, what TVs did I watch? Um, so I've got Junji Ito's Maniac down. The animated Netflix
Oh, we only watched the first one of
anthology
those about the Horrible Family.
about the Honourable Family. Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. And my love of like Junji Ito stuff has kind of been quite late. I think I've only just started the last couple of years kind of reading his stuff and seeing how it sort of influences other sort of media as well. But this animated version I think was great, and I'm not sure what hardcore fans of Ginger Ito think, but I think it did really well at telling some of the and it was quite respectful of the source material as well. I think I really enjoyed it. Like visually it was great. Um, and yeah, some real nasty stuff happened in these episodes. Go and check it out if you like your Japanese horror or manga or anything like that. I think for a year in a year where I've really been enjoying a lot of J horror, this was the perfect year for me to kind of like for this to come out and for me to enjoy it because it kind of just hit all those beats that I kind of wanted it to.
Okay.
Good stuff.
My last bit of telly is I've only had 4 episodes so far. They've had a little mid-season split, but I am once again up to date with Chucky. Season 3 is going now. It
Nice.
continues to be really strong, really tongue in cheek, just over the top ridiculousness, but having a great deal of love for the original. I mean, same showrunner, same director.
Yeah.
The mastermind behind Chucky Andy Machete's like he's putting these things out there. Um, it's been split in half, so the second half of Chucky season 3 will be out this year. I'm not sure exactly when. Um, but the first 4 episodes of season 3 really strong. They've gone to the extremes. They haven't gone to space yet, but Chucky is currently in the White House. The president's son has him as his little dolly mate. Um, he's been
No
to the
dolly, mate.
Amityville house this series. Literally Amityville house.
Wow.
It's it's it does not hold back on the gore in the kills at all. It is insane. Lovely cameo in this new series from Keenan of Keenan and Kel fame.
Nice.
Um, yeah, it doesn't hold back, and it's really funny. It's a funny show, despite having horrible, really really violent murder set pieces in it. It's funny throughout. It's a
Yeah.
absolute breeze. Like I would say, it's the most breezy watch you can have, where people also get brutally murdered every few minutes.
Easy breezy.
Yeah,
Uh, Still need to check it out. It's still on the
yeah,
list. TV shows are the one for me. Like I'm a film guy. I like to watch a film and be done with it. TV shows always feel like a commitment, despite the fact I've read nothing but good things.
yeah. Really, really good. Still recommending it. But yeah, that's it for TV. We back to the list. So my number 6, you may be asking me to pause here because you haven't mentioned it yet. It would naturally be time for me right now to talk about my enjoyment of Evil Dead Rise this year.
Oh, you're gonna have to put a pin in that because I've got that on the list as well, but not quite yet.
So, what have you got for your number 6 then, Ben?
My number 6 is Infinity Pool.
Oh, Infinity Pool. Well, why don't you talk about it right now? Because it is my number 5.
There we
So,
go.
we'll be
Look at
about to
that.
go into it naturally anyway.
Amazing. Um, so yeah, I another film, Brandon Cronenberg. I didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed Possessor. However, this has been one that kind of stuck with me a little bit more afterwards, and I was kind of like, "Oh, I wonder what that was all about. What did this mean? What did that mean?" And all the performances were great. Alexander Skarsgård, Mia Goth going crazy, saying what was his name? James, over and over again. I feel like that's been stuck in my head
Shouting
ever
at him eating some
since.
chicken on
Shouting
the
at me and
boot of
some
the car.
chicken. And of course, as you brought up on the quiz, and it was my question as well, gives him an old cheeky reach around. Um,
Yeah. He just nips off to have a little wee, and then before you know it, getting a bloody wristy at the beach.
Aristy. Yeah, again, a very weird film, a very horny film. Definitely very horny. Um, Loads of great visuals, body horror, uh, the unknowable, very strange. Something that kind of I've been thinking about this. I don't know how to describe this genre of something, right? But reminds me of like Under the Skin as well with Scarlett
Mm,
Johansson. It's like body horror, but it's like quite alien. I know literal alien in Under the Skin, but Infinity Pool feels kind of alien as well. Um, Grubby.
yeah.
Yeah, very, very much. Yeah,
Grotty as you like, isn't it?
grotty, horny, confusing, baffling and alien is kind of the ways I would describe it.
Yeah. Infinity Pool for me, I think great character work on there, everything else you just said, but it's got such a level of, even in normal interactions, just has this feeling of surrealism across the whole piece.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll touch on it later when we talk about episodes we'd like to do this year. I think Possessor has come up there now. I think because of the time that Possessor was released, and then just the release schedule surrounding Infinity Pool, it was hard
Yeah.
for us to do a live episode at time of launch. And then I think with a new release film, if you miss the initial window, then you're kind of in like a bit of a dead zone as to whether it comes across as you just hitting this late in the year of its release, or you wait a bit and do it later.
Yeah.
I think Possessor almost immediately. I'd like to go back and revisit quite soon, but I think at some point Infinity Pool probably warrants an episode to properly unpack and discuss as well.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, most definitely. Um, it's right up there in terms of, and I'm again really excited to see what is next for everyone involved. Well, Brandon Cronenberg, yes, Mia Goth. I know she's going to be a Maxine this year. Um, fast becoming like one of my favorite
she's brilliant.
genre stars. Yeah, yeah, she's great, and I love it when she does her English accent, 'cause a lot of people are confused by
A
that.
regular voice.
Um,
So
so
we
does
should
that
roll
mean?
straight into your number five then, Ben, because that was my five was Infinity Pool.
Yeah, did we do number six?
Yeah, my number six was Evil Dead Rise, and we're
Oh
saving
yeah,
that
of course,
until you
that's
get
right,
to
that's
it on
correct.
yours.
My number five is Raging Grace, one of the movies from Fright Fest, one of my favorites from Fright Fest. Again, maybe one where you would say, am I putting a pin in this? What am I doing?
No, no, it was on my honorable mentions. Now's the time to
That's
take that pin
right.
out.
That's right. Take that pin out. Um, again, a film where, like, on the surface, maybe not straight up horror. It's got some horror elements, definitely, but another film where the human story really increased my enjoyment of the film. I think it's got a great message, a really interesting story, and you can see the love and attention that's gone into the film from from filmmaker Paris. And yeah, some amazing performances, in particular from uh, Jaden, who you interviewed straight after the
Yeah,
film, and yeah, it's getting a lot of traction now. A lot of people, it's being featured on a lot of lists I've seen for like favorite films of the year. I'm not sure where it's going to be available to watch this year. Um, but yeah, it really affected me. And again, watching it on the big screen with an audience and seeing the sort of aftermath of it and everybody's reaction and the love and attention that's gone into it from everybody involved made my enjoyment of it that much higher
yeah.
on the list. And that's
I
why I've
think
included that's why I included a lot of stuff from Fright Fest, because that it was the event and meeting everybody that kind of really did like get me right in the mixer.
really increased the experience. But like even without any interaction with the filmmakers that we were lucky enough to have at Fright Fest,
Mm.
it was such a wonderful film to watch. I mean, I don't want to spoil any of it here. As you say, it hit my honorable mentions purely because we were doing a horror list today, and um, as a horror film, it's not entirely. It definitely has horror elements to it. It has every place to be at a horror festival.
Mm.
But because of that, I think as there's a particular reputation for with of horror fans in non-horror communities, I think the natural assumption is that they're going to be quite cold and detached, and not affected by things in the same way. But that film,
Hmm.
I saw. Am I misremembering, Ben? Like there were ovations at the end of that, right? People stood up and
There were
clapped when they
ovations at the end, and I think
there was a
afterwards
lot
when
of there was a lot of tears around there as well. Like
and it felt like that. It felt like it's a very like emotionally charged film. And obviously a very personal story of the director, Paris Zarcila. So you felt that, and I think that's why it affected everybody the way it did. If people are going to just be picking it up and watching it on demand or something, like people are still going to enjoy it. People are still going to be like, that was a heavyweight film, but just watching it with an audience is next level. Um, yeah, and some great performances, a great and as I've already mentioned, and I will continue mentioning, a bloody great human story.
yeah, yeah, really, really strong. Like really, really loved that film. And I again, we talk about films that you'd recommend to the people. This is a film I can't wait to be available places because I will recommend it to my wife and say, right, let's watch this film today because I think it's got
Yeah.
such a strong message to it as well. I think it can be
Hmm.
one that can be really appreciated from a character perspective. Really, really good.
Yeah. Um, there we go, and that's 6 and 5 for our list. Getting into the very top of the list next. Well, in a minute, because we're going to talk about our favorite horror in 2023 in other media. We're talking books,
Yes.
comics, games. I'm gonna talk documentaries as well.
Yeah. Where do you want to begin, Ben? Do you want to begin with games?
Yeah, we can begin with games. Why not?
Right. I've got a couple because, as we've mentioned, I think you're going to have a longer list of games than me. this year because I have not even got around to the Resident Evil 4 remake or the Dead Space remake. But the two horror centric things that I want to call out. The first one wasn't released in 2023, but has continued to receive updates throughout. So it's in. I've mentioned this on the show, Ben, but I fucking love me some Vampire Survivors. What
Yeah.
a game!
How would you describe this game for the uninitiated? Because I've not got around to it.
Oh, I tell you what, Ben, you want to get yourself stuck in because it costs like £2,
Yeah.
and it's on the Switch as well. It's on the Switch and
Yeah.
it's got couch co-op. You get Charlie involved in that.
Oh, look at
So
that.
it is a passive game. Technically, all you do as a player is move your character. So you are in kind of 8-bit visuals. You choose a character that is dropped down, and the attacking happens automatically. So based on a weapon that your
Yeah,
character
yeah.
starts with, the first character you have unlocked at the game has like a whip, Simon Belmont style, and
Yeah.
every few seconds the whip will cast out in front of him and attack something that's in front of him. And as you level up or as you find treasure chests, you get new weapons. And as time goes on, more and more enemies start crowding towards you. And it's such a phenomenally paced game. The unlocks are perfectly timed, and you go from um, playing and surviving for 5 minutes to then gradually getting better because you unlock things as well. So with the money that you earn during the game, you go back to that menu between games and go, oh, I can unlock this, and it means my character attacks 10% faster. So
Yeah.
you gradually get stronger and stronger and stronger. You unlock more weapons, you unlock more characters, and then just when you think you've reached the limit, because the game technically runs at a 30-minute timer. So if you can survive at 30 minutes, the Grim Reaper just comes and kills you, and it instantly gets you. But if you're strong enough and you can get weapons, you can kill him and then go beyond that and unlock more
Oh,
stuff. And
take that,
it's
Grim
gone
Reaper.
from a game where you are just having a little go at it to one where ultimately, if you've leveled everything, you could survive
Forever.
indefinitely
Oh,
because you
Jesus.
become so powerful. Um, and
So what
it's
are you being attacked by?
all sorts of horror creatures, so bats, mummies, zombies, medusas, and
Oh,
you're in these
yeah.
like horror. There's a haunted forest, and then you're in a castle library, and you go through these different areas. Some of the simplest, most compelling gameplay
Mm.
I've enjoyed in a
Sometimes that's all you
long,
need.
long time. Yeah, get yourself a copy of that, Ben. Treat yourself to a lovely copy of it on the Switch, and you'll have a whale of a time. Or get it on the PlayStation so you can do some couch co-op. Get
Yeah.
involved.
Get the old,
It's ever so good. Um,
trophies on the go.
oh yeah, maxed out, and I thought I'd maxed out, but I had a quick glance at my achievements when I was getting ready to get set on this list today, and some new ones have been put in, so I'm gonna have to download it again and get stuck back in.
Oh yeah. Hell
The
yeah. I love
other
it when that
one
happens.
I'll mention, which I think you will possibly have something to say about as well, is that this year I enjoyed the DLC to Resident Evil Village as well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Story wise, a little bit of a retreading, a little bit lighter. They've sort of put a contrivance in there that gives you an excuse to be sort of jumping between areas, that having to sort of navigate between them too much. But
Mm-hmm.
in saying that, probably as a single set piece, one of the most intensive parts of horror gaming I've had this year. The section in the Dolly House where
Oh
you have to
yeah.
navigate several of those things that always move towards you when you aren't looking at them.
Yeah. It's basically like that Doctor Who episode, isn't it?
Yeah, you have to look at them all the time, but then because there
When
will
you
be
look
things
away.
at either side of you, you have to change where you're looking, or because you have to work out where a door is, you naturally have to turn your back on them. It's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. Was that this year? So Shadows of Rose, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The achievements I pulled on it were this year, so I think it must have been because I don't think I sat on it too long.
Mm. Sweet. Yeah, that was good. That was good. I played that as well. Anything else?
No, that's me done. I haven't
That's
had
you. Well,
had
as you
time to.
already
Well, I played
mentioned,
games, but not any horror ones really.
as you already mentioned, I did play. I mean, in terms of horror games, I've played Resident Evil 4, the remake, and also the DLC that went alongside that, the Ada centric Separate Ways. Had a great time with that as well. I think Resident Evil 4, just like Resident Evil 2, before it, maybe not Resident Evil 3, although still good. Up there with like the perfect remakes. Like it just really makes the game, the story, the every single monster set piece, it just makes it so much more accessible because when you go back and play the old Resident Evil 4, of course it's classic. And I saw someone talking about on Twitter recently, like, which one is the best, original or remake? It's like original still is the best, but I think in terms of like modern gameplay, I would only go back and play the remake because
Hmm. Yeah,
everything is just so much easier to sort of to get your head around.
some
Um,
quality of life improvements, right? And that's probably the game you remember loving so much.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It was amazing. I played it through several times on various difficulty just so I could try and unlock as much as I could. And everything that felt like it was missing from the main game ended up turning up in separate ways. So absolutely perfect. Can't argue with that at all.
All you
Dead
needed.
Space, yeah, Dead Space. Maybe like yes, it's a remake, but it almost feels like a bit of a reskin in a way. Of course, the gameplay has changed enough, but I think again, if you've never played Dead Space before and you want a really accessible version of it that looks great, sounds great, that is genuinely bloody terrifying, then yes, get yourself on that game 100%. Enjoyed my time with both of those games. And as I already mentioned, World of Horror, I have downloaded ready to go. Um, and looking forward to Silent Hill 2 remake.
Coming right
Hopefully
up.
we get our hands on that this year. Obviously, I did miss Alan Wake 2 this year, and that is in my list for
That's my, yeah, my missed
things
one
I
as well
didn't
this
get to
year.
yet.
Want to get to it, but not yet.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of other media, I know I said I was going to mention documentaries as well, so I'll quickly rattle through them. J Horror Virus was right up there because it kind of made me really stand up and appreciate what I'd seen already, but also want to seek out every other film on that documentary and check out. So that's been like a huge thing for me this year. The Robert England documentary, Hollywood Dreams and Nightmares, that was great. That was fun. A real love letter to him as an actor, not just for his work as Freddy Krueger. Wreck Terror Without Pools. I saw that at Fright Fest, the movie about the making of the Spanish found footage zombie film. Wreck, amazing. Again, all you can want from a film, from a documentary like that, especially when it's a film you love. Another great experience at Fright Fest. And the only other one I've got down here at the moment is I Am Monsters, the
Ah,
documentary
yes.
with Nicholas Vince talking about his experience working on films such as Hellraiser and Nightbreed. And of course, I had an interview with him, a bonus episode, talking about that documentary. So you can check that out too.
I tell you what, if you haven't, and if you're normally just a listener to other episodes, you don't necessarily dive in on interviews and stuff, I would heartily recommend you check out Ben's interview with Nick. He's such a lovely man,
Yeah,
and I
he's
think
a lovely guy.
you have such nice, gentle chemistry with him, and you have a really good chat. I really enjoyed the stuff. I was out walking the dogs. It was a lovely sunny day when I was out there with
Oh,
them,
that was
and I just
perfect.
sat down on the bench for a little bit. So I was like, I don't want to go home yet. I'm going to sit out here and enjoy listening to the end of this.
Did you imagine?
Lovely.
I was at one side of you, and Nicholas Vince was at the other side, and we were just giving you a
I was
nice
like
warm
that. I
hug.
was like that little boy sitting against the ice cream fridge, like like having a lovely time.
I like that sometimes though. I feel like our interviews are pretty good at like obviously mainline episodes, and when we have guests, things can get a bit silly. We can have a good laugh. We can have some nice segues, but I think our interviews are always nice and sort of steady and reserved, and like let's find
Yeah,
out a little bit more
to
about this
show that
person.
we can be serious on occasion.
Serious film journalist. That's
Yes,
us.
serious film
Um,
journalism.
did you have anything down for like comics and books?
Let me tell you.
I will just mention
Comics, I've
this.
got one. But yeah, if you've got something, will I pull it up?
Oh, you've got a comic? I was just gonna say, in terms of books, sorry to jump in. I was gonna say this year has been one for me, like reading the paperback classics of books that perhaps I'd not read before. So I've read things like The Wicker Man, The Rats, The Keep, Rosemary's Baby, all these books that I'd never read before. Nice little short reads, but still really enjoyable, and it's kind of made me want to continue my horror paperback collection into 2024, which is also the year when I've started back on the VHS collection train as well. So all of that classic um physical
Classic physical
media,
media.
yeah,
Yeah, you've really inspired Ben. I
coming
really do
back
want
to
to
me.
get and read The Rats.
Yeah.
Um, I might have a book
Hell yeah.
recommendation here. Oh, in fact, I do. I will show you here to the camera. A lovely Christmas present I got, which is part
Oh.
of the inspiration for one of our rounds of the quiz this week. I got this lovely book by, I assume, a gentleman name by the name of Killian H. Gore. Um, might be a pen name as opposed to actual name, but a lovely book of horror doodles that I got from my sister for
Oh, lovely.
Christmas. I'm not going to spoil the quiz book by writing in it, but I might post it to you when I've finished it, Ben, so you can enjoy it for yourself.
Oh, hell yeah.
They've got some lovely pictures here
Oh.
of
Wait, is that Tower?
clues of for horror films, and then it gives you a little clue. You can play along with a little quiz book. Ever such fun. I'm working my way through that. Um, but the last thing I wanted to recommend, comic book wise, was excuse me, uh, guest of the show last year, John Lees came and joined us
Oh, yeah.
just before the first issue of his horror inspired comic, The Nasty, dropped.
Mm.
Um, I actually have the last two issues to finish still. I need to pick them. I need to go and pick them up still, but my local comic book store sadly closed in the year, so I wasn't able to pick up the last couple. So I need to go and seek those out and make sure I've got the whole ones. But again, uh, the last video store energy. I'm sure Kev would enjoy these too, but
Mm.
it is about some group of young friends who work at a video store. One of them with an imaginary friend who is a an analog of Jason Voorhees, like a big stoic killer in a mask. Um, and they find a cursed tape that they watch, which unleashes some horrors into the world. Really, really good fun from what I've read so far. Worth seeking out if you like combining your horror with comics. But
Mm.
those are my other media picks for the year.
Amazing. And we've both got copies of the Bitmap books from Ants to Zombies, mega hardback book all about uh, horror in games. Um, that's right, Nick. You've got a copy of that?
Yeah, it is. It's really good. I haven't finished reading it yet, but I'm working my way through slowly. Have a little
Yeah,
glance every so
6 decades of video game horror, like a really big, thick coffee table book. It's probably like my fourth book by Bitmap books that I've got my hands on.
Yeah,
I
I've
don't know
got
how this kind
Go
of like passed me.
Straight. I've got I'm
Got
Too
Go
Young
Straight,
to
yeah.
Die.
I've got that
What's,
too. Hell
yeah,
yeah.
right
I've
behind me. I'm looking back at the shelf there.
I don't know why this passed me by because you sent me a picture of it. And you're like, I've got From Ants to Zombies. I was like, oh yeah, yeah, there we go. I don't know why, but for some reason, from the title of it, I thought, oh, maybe it's just a book about um game enemies or something. Do you know what I mean? Like all the game enemies. Didn't realize it was just about video game horror. So as soon as I
Just
saw the
video game
cover of
horror.
it, I was like, ah, yeah, that's what I should be getting on that. So I'll be reading that this year.
Amazing. Is
Uh,
it time for 4 to 2?
yeah, it is. And I guess I'll mention my four first because you've already mentioned it. It's Evil Dead Rise, number
Oh,
four.
get
We're
on
getting,
it.
we're getting into the heavy hitters now. Yeah, in terms of franchise horror, this was the best one of the year, wasn't it? This was the best franchise horror of the year, and it was. I think on last year's episode, I would have said it was one of the films I was looking forward to the most. Um, yeah, I mean, I absolutely loved it. I don't think it reaches the gory heights of 2013's Evil Dead. But I guess it gets pretty close. And again, I'm gonna say it again, and forgive me for repeating myself over and over again. A great human story. I was really into all of the characters and their kind of like relationships and their dynamic, so that when people start getting deadited,
Mm-hmm.
deadited, you really felt like, oh no, not that person. Oh, I feel devastated. I love the setting. I love the sort of like single location setting, even though it is like a high rise. I kind of when I heard about it, I kind of thought, is this going to be like Dread or The Raid, but with Deadites? And I'm kind of glad it wasn't because I think it just felt a lot more. I loved the sort of
Mm.
close quarters nature of it. That made it more scary. The intro sequence was insane. The title card is like probably the best title card I've ever seen in my life. Um, uh, yeah, just a really,
It's
really
such a
good
smooth
film.
production, isn't it? Like for such a grotty subject matter, it is so well produced, so polished and put together. The characters are likable. I like how no one is off the table. It's quite an extreme watch in
Yeah.
places. I think they've done an absolute masterclass in creating that discomfort in you, in it being, I've never in my life been accidentally swallowed a big bit of glass, and I've never had anyone scratch down the back of my leg with a cheese grater. But I feel in my spirit I can imagine what those things feel like. And I think that is a rare talent, to create these things where you can almost wince from the things that happen to those people, because you can imagine what that would be like if it happened to you.
Yeah, I think yeah, that's the thing. When a horror film kind of makes you almost look away, I don't actually look away, right? Because I'm
I find
big
it
brave.
funny, actually.
I find it I'm big and brave, and I find it funny more than scary. Not true. But yeah, when it almost makes you look away, there were some moments in that, and there were some moments in my number two film where I was like, oh, I don't know if I can quite look. I need to kind of like look at it from an angle or kind of like through like half close my eyes where I'm kind of like going, yeah, I kind of know what's going to happen. But as I mentioned, feels like, those opening sequence in Casualty, something terrible is going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen, but everything that's happening, you're like, oh God, I can't handle the tension. Better than Casualty, of course, but
Yeah. Oh no, Charlie's been at it for a long time, they say.
it's true. Uh, yeah, so that was my
There we
number
go.
four, and that was your
Evil
number
Dead
five.
Rise.
What's
I
your
think you're
number five?
right. Same for me, probably the highest performing franchise sequel
Yeah.
of the year. My number four was Out of Darkness, also titled, certainly titled at the time I
Oh
saw it, as The
yeah.
Origin.
You've
Um,
mentioned this a few times, haven't you?
it was so good. We went to go and see it. Our friend Hannah and I went to go and see it um, at the DCA. The good people at the DCA, who have been kind enough to point us in the way of a few great things from part of their Dunded. You can hear an interview with me and Michael Cool, their program director,
Yeah.
talking about how
Oh
they
my
put
God.
those
Yeah, of course.
festivals together. I hope to see them for Dunded some more this year. I see coming up early this year, already in January, they have a Dunded screening of T Blockers, which
Oh
was
yeah, I saw that.
one of the films at Fright Fest this year.
Hmm.
But Out of Darkness, a new title for a film that I saw titled called The Origin at the time. Scottish director Andrew Cumming, filmed during COVID lockdowns in the Highlands of Scotland. I have never seen such phenomenal location work. It looks so desolate. Um, and just the way that it's presented, I will always reward in recognition of a big swing when it comes to filmmaking. And the
Yeah.
fact that they got a linguist in
Mm.
to
Oh yeah.
study ancient languages and then just basically invent a language for these people. So they are all speaking a language which is not English, and it's based on these ancient African and Nordic languages sort of fused together to make an entirely fictional language there, where basically the crew and the cast are speaking to each other in this language, which should be unrecognizable to it. It's subtitled for us
Mm.
in English, but it has feelings of the Predator occasions. It has some. We talked about the ritual that I watched. It's got that oppressive nature about it as well, and without there even being sinister forces out to get them, it feels, even in those moments, just as they're interacting, they feel so vulnerable all the time, because they're these people in this such a hostile landscape. And
Hmm.
especially watching it in the cinema, there's a moment where they're gathered around the fire. And as soon as you are, like, it reminds you, you've ever been on a camping trip and it's light and warm by the fire. But if you take just a few steps away, you
Yeah.
are so exposed and out in the cold and darkness. So all the effort you put into this fire basically gives you just a few feet of like warmth and safety, and then all around you is this such oppressive darkness,
Hmm.
and it is. I found it incredibly effective. I have no details in front of me as to whether it's now more widely available. I imagine
Got some
the
details
change
for
of
you. Got
name.
some
Have you got
details
some
for you.
up? Thank you so much.
Yes,
What can you tell us,
indeed.
Ben?
Theatrical release 9th of February 2024.
Oh my
For
goodness.
Irish and United Kingdom rights. So it looks like we're going to be getting a UK release for that. Um, so yeah, everything you told me about it sounds great, sounds fascinating, and I'd love to see it. So super looking forward to
Yeah.
that.
Heartily recommended.
Amazing. Um,
So number three.
my number three is the last one of my Fright Fest picks, and
Oh,
it is My Mother's Eyes. Um,
oh, please continue. I
please
knew this would
continue.
be high on yours, so please do carry on.
Now, of course, like as I've mentioned, and as I mentioned on our Fright Fest episode, and even the episode when we kind of did our Fright Fest awards. Was that on the Fright Fest episode? I think it was, wasn't it? When did we do the Fright Fest awards? I think maybe we
We did
just.
them on the episode, right? We were well together with all of our
Oh yeah, right at the end.
selections. We were very timely.
So while I've talked about watching these films with audiences, watching these films, and getting the immediate reaction from everybody, and speaking to the filmmakers and chatting to the actors and all this stuff gives me such an appreciation of the film. The fact that director Takeshi Kishida was kind of like hanging out with us for huge sections of the festival. We were getting to know him, finding out about his life in
What were we
Japan.
singing?
We were singing. What were we singing?
We were singing something
We
at
were
that
singing
bar.
something. We had a little sing song with him in the bar. We're talking about his favorite English artists, and we're talking about our favorite Japanese artists. Like Luke Kondo was putting out some of the most bizarre like Japanese artists, and Takeshi Kishida was like, "Oh yeah, how'd you know? How'd you know who they are?" So the fact that we can hang out with him, find out so much more about the film, and kind of like befriend him in a way, made me appreciate that film so much more for everything he put into it. The fact that he did all of the audio work himself.
And such
Um,
a fast turnaround as well, right? He filmed it in how many days?
was it like a couple of weeks? I can't
Yeah, it
remember.
was not
Or
long
is
at
it?
all.
I can't remember. The fact
Go
that
back to our episode. He says it.
yeah, the fact that most of the actors are like first time, it's their first time performance, first time role for something like that. It just made me appreciate like everything about that. And obviously, he gave me a copy of the Blu-ray of his first movie, Woman of the Photographs, as well. This is like it just made me appreciate that so much more. Like I couldn't even begin to imagine like what must go into it, and it really does feel like um a film a film personal to him. And the story's great as well. It kind of feels like a kind of like a Black Mirror sort of episode vibe, but it's a really interesting premise, really interesting performance, and yeah, a lot of eye stuff. So if you're squeamish about eye stuff, like the audio stuff for eyes was incredibly juicy, which I loved. And
Love a
yeah,
juicy eye.
I just really enjoyed it, and it's been amazing and fascinating to see him like take that film now around the world. So now when I see him posting on social media, like with the films like winning awards, premiering at different festivals of different countries and stuff, it's amazing to see, and I feel like privileged and honored to have been like a very small part of it when it came over to the UK. His his trip over from Japan to come to the festival and enjoy it. And yeah, I think that whole experience has bumped it up for me. But I think I would have definitely enjoyed the film. It would definitely made my top 10. But the fact that having that experience wrapped up with it takes it up to
Yeah.
number um 3 for me.
I very much enjoyed it, and I think it would have definitely been on my honorable mentions list, Ben. But I was hedging my bets a little bit because I strongly suspected it was going to be one of your front runners this year. So I thought
Yeah.
I don't need to bring it up. I know someone who will.
I know someone who will. It's me. There we
Um,
go.
so what would be my number three now? I'm gonna put another prediction out there, Ben. I suspect that my number three is your number two, and my number two is your number one. Of course,
Oh
I'm not going to
wow,
say
okay.
what that is now, so I
You
could
think
just
you're
say, "Oh, it was
you think
absolutely
you
right."
know me, do you? You think I'm that
Yeah. We'll
predictable?
find out,
I
shall we?
I am. So your
My number
number,
three. That's what we're on, right? My
yeah,
number three is "Talk to Me."
and that's my number two. So we can
Predicted. Shall we do it right now then?
let's
Um,
do it.
Talk to Me was such a pleasant surprise when I went to go and see it this year. In a year where I've said it enough times this episode already, I'm really sick of franchise stuff. I needed new ideas. I needed new presentations, and Talk to Me was just the remedy for the things that I was sick of. It was
Yeah.
a new idea. It was new faces. And what I found about it as well, I think, particularly as a piece of Australian cinema,
Hmm.
um, for us in the UK, and I think I talked about this on the episode, I find Australian cinema particularly compelling. I think most of the podcasts I listen to are Australian, so I consume a lot of Australian media anyway. But
Hmm.
um, I think Australia hits a really nice mark for myself as a British audience member in that it's not here and it is different. But strangely, even compared to the US, another country where we share a lot of culture and a lot of language,
Hmm.
the cultural differences between the UK and Australia are they are different, but we're also incredibly close because of our shared histories together.
Yeah.
Um, and I was hooked on this film from the opening scene where the older brother is going to find his sibling at a house party and walks up to a bunch of teenagers and goes "Oi." I was like, oh, okay, I I'm comfortable with this. I'm in on it. And then I think the scares were incredibly effective.
Yeah.
I think this is probably the point where you were talking about the film that you had to look away from.
Yeah.
It is
There were lots of moments like that.
relentless in some of its scares, particularly when the brother is dealing with possession and the creatures inhabiting him are trying to harm him.
Yeah.
It was it's devastating, it's upsetting, it's really uncomfortable, and then in another breath, it's quite funny. It's
Yeah.
really again the
It kind
dialogue
of
feels like natural dialogue of young people talking to each other, not
you
like
kind of like
middle-aged folks wrote it for them.
yeah, you kind of let your guard down a bit, don't you? And then when the scares start arriving, like again, another visceral film, um, and it doesn't rely on like jump scares or like soundtrack moments to try and really make you uh shit your pants. It kind of just has got it all there, and I think it's just like a really cool film, and the fact that we're going to get a sequel to it as well, um, is pretty awesome because I think, as we've mentioned before, there's so much potential for this to be a big franchise. And again, that's good and bad because then we're like, okay, is it just going to be a watered down version next? But hopefully, if the same filmmakers are involved, it's going to be good. And then maybe they'll go, we'll do a third one, but then just that's it, leave it.
No more. Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to more Talk to Me. And again, something I am actually excited to see more of.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. Um, so that's your number three. Did you want to?
Yeah,
And
that's
that's my
my
your number three, my number two. Yep. So
three. I'm gonna go with it, Ben. I am fairly certain that my number two is your number one. So rather than reveal your number one by saying my number two, let's do another category and then we'll do
yeah,
those well because that'll effectively be both of our number ones together
yeah,
at
yeah.
that
I
point
feel like
then.
I know what your number one is now.
Yeah.
Initially I was like, I'm not sure, and now we've got it. So yeah, 2023 things you didn't get to yet. We've mentioned a couple of them. Alan Wake 2 is probably the big one for me because I was a
Mm-hmm.
bit like, oh, I want a bloody physical release and I want the game to go on my shelf, and it was digital only, so I kind of let go, and then it was winning all the awards and game awards appearances, and everybody saying it's like one of the best game narratives of the last 5 years or something. All that stuff has made me super upset and definitely want to play it. So I'm gonna have to do it at some point early this year. Um,
You're going to do your control playthrough and then get on it.
possibly. Let's see what happens. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's still again, it's because as a digital release, I always feel like paying full price for a digital release. I always feel a little bit
I
cheated, and
know.
that's
And there's
kind of
always a
silly.
digital sale, which I think is triggered by you buying it. So
Yeah,
yeah. Oh,
yeah,
and Valentine's Day's coming. It's coming up fast.
it is. And you know what I love? Myself.
Yeah.
So
Well, I was gonna say you could say to Charlie that no chocolates this year. I'm slimming. Don't waste paper on bloody cards. Not sustainable. You know what's
not
very
sustainable at
sustainable? A
all.
digital release of the game. Yeah, so Alan Wake 2 was the big one for me as well. I do intend to get on that. I've got another couple of things that I just didn't get to catch just yet. Um, I have started Hell House Origins, having enjoyed lots of Hell House
Hmm.
stuff this year. So I'm gonna get through that. I've got about a third of the way through, but internet was being slow when I was watching it, so I was like, "Oh fuck it, stop buffering. I'm gonna try later." Um, Eight Eyes was a Fright Fest movie I didn't catch, and seeing
Oh
John
yeah.
Crennan over the New Year period, he said it was possibly one of his favorite films of the year. So I'm really
Oh
excited to
nice.
catch up with that. And my last one,
There's loads of Fright Fest
oh,
stuff
there's
I
tons
still
of
need to
Fright Fest
watch.
stuff that I still want to catch.
Yeah.
But the last one I had on my list was Sister Death, which is, I understand, standalone, but also a prequel to. Have you seen Veronica?
Oh, this is that Spanish?
Spanish
Yeah.
haunting slightly versus sort of possession kind of
Mm-hmm.
movie. And thinking back to that now, there is a character they talk about called Sister Death, like
Wow.
an old
Okay.
nun that they're all afraid of in the convent school that they're at. Uh, it's getting some really good buzz. Listening to the good folks, our colleagues over at Nightmare on Film Street, I think it was one of John's movies of the year. So I
Oh
want
right.
to
Okay.
hurry up and catch up with that as well. Haven't seen
Yeah.
it yet.
So yeah, loads of Fright Fest stuff that I definitely need to see without a doubt. Um, what else have I got down? Obviously, I mentioned Alan Wake. A couple of, I guess, is Boas Afraid kind of like
Yeah, I
horror
think so.
adjacent?
I haven't seen that
Think
yet either because 3 hours long, hard to find the time.
hard to find a bloody time. And Monarch Legacy of Monsters. I know again another thing that's kind of like horror adjacent. I really want to watch this, but it's like another thing that I've got to subscribe to Apple TV. So I'm a bit like, oh, do I want to?
I'm 3 episodes in, and because I got like a 3 month free subscription, which I think will last until the series has ended because I'm not paying for another thing, but
Yeah, that's how I feel. Not
I'm
playing for another
specifically
thing.
logging onto it to watch Monarch and nothing else.
Maybe I'll do that then. Maybe I'll do that. Let's look into that. Let's look into it. And yeah, in terms of other things I've missed, obviously I said World of Horror is that game that I want to check out. Um, but yeah, there's probably absolutely loads I'm missing off of that list. There's still some films, non-horror, like Poor Things and The Iron Claw, which I really want to see. Bit delayed in terms of UK release on that, so looking
That can
forward
be a
to
look
both of them.
forward to this year instead. You all right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know.
Right.
Uh,
Shall we finish off our top tens before we look forward to what we're doing next this coming year?
yes. So I'm assuming the one that you, the one that's number one for me, the one that you assumed, and is number two for you. Is that correct?
Yeah, although I need a caveat on this one. My number two for horror movies this year, because of where it sits as a horror film for me, in a non-genre specific list, is probably my favorite film of the year.
Yeah.
But I've bumped
So
it for horror
the
for a special
reason
occasion.
for a special occasion. So we had a discussion about this before. We were like, we've done Godzilla stuff on this podcast. We've done Shin Godzilla obviously as a mainline episode, and you did a bonus episode talking about Godzilla
Speculating Godzilla X
speculating,
Kong, who the enemies are going to be.
and now we kind of know. So I was a bit like, am I going to include this as a horror movie? We discussed it. We said yes. So I guess in terms of like horror adjacent slash big genre films, this is my number one. In terms of like if we're going strict horror and being super strict, talk to me as my favorite horror movie of the year,
Mhm.
let's say. But in terms of this list, number one for me, and I'm assuming number two for you, is Godzilla minus
You are
one.
correct.
Um, we mentioned it a bit on the show last week, and I'm gonna sound like a bloody broken record here. This is in a year full of amazing human stories that I really connected with and enjoyed. This had the best human story of all, didn't it?
Yeah. So, so good. And I think we mentioned it last week. I cannot emphasize enough how disposable the human characters in Godzilla films usually are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but these were so good. I loved
Yeah.
them. I didn't want any of them to be destroyed by Godzilla. Like genuinely, when they're in peril and Godzilla's charging up his big beam, I actually, oh no, please escape. You don't want them to be
Yeah.
destroyed. And it's a combination of you care
Please.
about the characters, but
Yeah.
additionally, they've done such a good job, as we discovered in the quiz. This Godzilla has gone back to the regular size of Godzilla from the original,
Yeah.
smaller than lots of the other ones we're seeing. But they do such a phenomenal job in making it seem like an absolutely insurmountable force. It feels
Yeah.
completely undefeatable, much like you would feel as a person when a monster would turn up. Like you think,
Yeah.
there's nothing I can do about this. And you
I think
see some great moments of the rejoice they have when they think the military's coming to aid them, and then they're just obliterated. And
mm,
it gives the character such power, and that's why I'm pulling it into horror because it's
yeah.
made Godzilla genuinely terrifying.
Most definitely, yeah. I think that's why I'm happy to let it be a horror film is because yeah, Godzilla's terrifying. I think Luke last week described him as a menace. Like he is just a otherworldly presence who has literally doesn't care about wiping out hundreds of thousands of people in one go. And yeah, obviously the camaraderie between some of the characters it remind me of Jules in a way. And obviously there's some like the scenes at sea are genuinely terrifying as well. So I think that's why it easily falls into horror genre because of course in a world where Hollywood movies have made Godzilla kind of like cuddlies, like a good guy. He's helping out. He'll only turn up if there's another monster and he gets ass kicked. Let's
Yeah.
fuck him up. It's easy to go, well, that's not really a horror movie, is it? But then you watch this and you're like, oh my God, it 100% is. Even just, it'll just, yeah, destroy a building, destroy a load of buildings, make a big explosion, and you'll just be killed by the, by the force created by that.
The
You don't
mere
even have
presence
the
of
mere
Godzilla is
presence
enough
of
to
him.
kill you. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, phenomenal filmmaking. And again, I'll sound like a broken record now if you've watched last week, but this was made for $15 million, which
Yeah.
more money
Yeah.
than you or I'll ever see, Ben. You know, there ain't enough Patreon in the world to get us to that kind of money. But compared to the what $200-300 million you see spent on a Hollywood blockbuster now,
Yeah.
and I don't think this is poorer for it. I think the effects in this are good.
Oh yeah. Like you would never watch this and go, "Oh yeah, it's only a fraction of the Hollywood ones." You
Yeah,
wouldn't. It
it's
stands alongside them 100%.
it's phenomenal, and I genuinely like. There's been for something that was meant to get a limited release, it's still running at the cinema near me.
Hmm.
I might have to go again, and I do that
Oh,
so rarely now. Like
yeah.
so rarely these days do I go and see a film a second time at the cinema.
Hmm.
Um, but it was so good on the IMAX. You could feel it. It was incredible. The best cinema going experience I've probably had
Yeah.
since I don't know when.
Since records
Maybe
began.
maybe Avengers Endgame, because that was the culmination of X number of years of films, and it was a really good experience in a really full cinema. But
Yeah.
Godzilla, maybe for just a physical experience, maybe even tops it. So, so good.
Mm,
Cannot understate how good that film is. And as I say, I've
100%.
bumped it
Yeah.
to second on my horror specific list because I really want to recognize something which is a true, absolutely dyed in the wool horror film, which also celebrates some independent creators who we'll talk about in just a minute. But Godzilla minus one is probably the best film I saw last year in terms of just any
Yeah,
genre, any type of film, right up there.
right up there, 100%. So that's my number one, and your number one. I
My
feel
number
like
one
by
was
process of elimination, I feel like I've worked this out.
go on, prove it right, and you be like, Mr. Harrigan's phone. No, it's not.
Your
it's
number one movie is, I'm just gonna mouth it along as you say it.
it is How to Kill Monsters.
Wow, wow, wow.
I I really, really enjoyed this. It was so much fun. I'd not seen their previous film, Book of Monsters, before I saw this. I watched it afterwards.
Hmm.
Um, and before I saw this film, like this is a tapestry of putting these things together. John Crennan, who's got more name checks in this episode, I'll have to guest credit him almost. Um, he had mentioned how much he enjoyed their previous film, Book of Monsters, and how much he was looking to forward to seeing How to Kill Monsters at Fright Fest last year.
Hmm.
Um, then it so happened that looking it up and when we were preparing for Fright Fest, I'd recognised the film star. So Lindsay Crane had been in Eating Miss Campbell, which I'd
Hmm.
really enjoyed this year as well. Really punchy dialogue, really, really fun, over the top, lots of good trauma energy about it. Um, then it so happened that in one of the short film showcases, the in the morning of the day we saw How to Kill Monsters, as luck and circumstance would have it, I was sitting next to Lindsay, the star of the film, and Stuart, her husband, and the director of the film, in the auditorium. I got talking to them beforehand, so before their movie came out. And again, mentioned this a few times. Really nice people. It makes you enjoy their work even more.
Hmm.
Um, and then we watched the film. As I say, a horror film through and through, and an independent horror film through and through. Like it is, um, it's got some wonderful characters in it. It's really funny. Um, it has practical, not Hollywood budget effects, but they are
Hmm.
delightful. They use miniature work, things that I just get a real kick out of. And, as I say, genuinely just so funny. I love the interactions between the characters. I love the soundtrack um that the ending credits music is now turned up on my run playlist on my Spotify. I listen to it
Oh wow.
several times a week when I'm out on runs. Like I just really enjoyed it. It was an absolute delight, and I am really looking forward to the opportunity to see it again. And then final pinch of it, obviously we met the writer Paul Butler just afterwards when we were meeting some of the others to chat to them a little bit as well.
Oh yeah.
He's only from bloody Tamworth, isn't he? Center
From
of the
bloody
universe.
Tamworth.
So
The
that's
moment
why
when
we
you two realize you're both from Tamworth is perfection. Is
yeah. Oh
fantastic.
my
You know
goodness.
what?
Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why it resonated so much with me from a content perspective. It's my culture bent. Um, so I couldn't, even against the might of Godzilla, as I say, overall genre free favorite film of the year, but I could not but mention this as my favorite horror movie of the year. I
Mm.
can't wait for another opportunity to watch it. But you enjoyed it well enough too. What were your thoughts? Anything to add?
Yeah, yeah, I loved it. And obviously, if you listen back to the Fright Fest episode, you can hear you talk to the writer, you talk to the star, Lindsay, and I talk to the director, Stuart. Um, yeah, just again, everyone involved was great. Like the cast, it just felt like every role, no matter how small the role was, the actor was so good in it that it felt like a great ensemble cast. I know we kind of gave it some awards, and perhaps we gave it best cast as well, or maybe something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah,
Did we?
it definitely pulled some of our
We
awards
gave it a
from
few things
Fright
like that, and
Fest.
again, great to see how well it's doing and traction it's getting on the festival circuit
They're touring
and
all over,
awards.
right? They've there's been US screenings now. I think they have Australia early this year now. I messaged some of our other podcast colleagues in some Australian podcasts and said, "Hey, you want to check this out, boys?" Yeah, like it's really, really great to see these films get this kind of attention. They're picking up awards, everything they've been to. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's been really good to see them doing well.
yeah, most definitely. Um, there we go then. That is it for our top 10 of the year, plus honorable mentions, plus new discoveries,
For
biggest
people playing along
biggest
at home, Ben, do you
disappointments.
just want to rattle through your top 10 from top to bottom one last time?
Yeah, why not? So, at 10, I'm gonna sound like I'm doing bloody top of the pops, aren't I?
So pop
At
smashy and
10,
nicey.
At 10, Thanksgiving. 9, Founders Day. 8, No One Will Save You. 7, When Evil Lurks. 6, Infinity Pool. 5, Raging Grace. 4, Evil Dead Rise. 3, My Mother's Eyes. 2, Talk to Me. And 1, Godzilla minus 1.
Wonderful. And then for me, 10, No One Will Save You. 9, Black Mold. 8, When Evil Lurks. 7, Mithrigan. 6, Evil Dead Rise. 5, Infinity Pool. 4, Out of Darkness slash The Origin. 3, Talk to Me. 2, Godzilla minus 1. 1, How to Kill Monsters.
Hell yes. What a list. What a year for movies. But now looking forward to 2024. I've got some new releases to suggest, but I think in terms of content, we're definitely going to be hitting up more film festivals, as many as we can, and in-person live events. We'll try and get more details about that as soon as possible. More interviews, hopefully more franchise rankings, retrospectives, bonus content, and already curating a list of guests to some returning guests and some brand new guests for movies for the year. Um, Anything in particular looking forward to in the next 12 months, Andy?
A couple. So technically, it's had festival releases in 2023, but I'm excited. All, to be honest, the only real franchise thing I'm really excited for, apart from sequels to things we talked about, Toxic Avenger. I'm really looking
Oh
forward
my
to seeing
God,
what they're doing with
yes.
it.
How did I forget
Um,
about that?
yeah, so the Toxic Avenger. Also, a little bit of news we had at the end of the year. Um, the Universal Monsters, the world of monsters, is moving ahead and forward. Your friend and mine, Ben, Lee Wannell, is helming the Wolfman
Oh yeah,
with a review with a release scheduled for October this year.
Ryan
Having
Gosling
seen what he did
dropped
with
out, didn't he?
The Invisible Man,
Yeah,
looking forward to it. Yeah, I'm
the
looking
Wolfman,
to
but
see what
no
the
more
Wolfman's
Ryan
up to.
Gosling. It's a star of Possessor now, isn't it? Who's been
Yes, I
cast?
believe so. I'd have to check the credentials.
Christopher Abbott,
That's it.
who he looks a bit wolfy anyway. He's got those eyes that look a bit wolfy. Does that make any
Yeah.
sense at all?
Will it be
Yes.
like the original where he's as much of a predator before he becomes a wolfman when he's just
Oh
harassing women
God,
that work in shops? Or will he be a nice man until he becomes
a
a
wolfman.
wolf? What else? Before the Mask, a prequel to Behind the Mask, Rise of Leslie Vernon, which
Oh wow,
I
getting a
low key
prequel for
love,
that.
is due this year. Nosferatu is due this year. I'm looking forward
Christmas
to that.
Day, Christmas Day release for Nosferatu.
Cinema's
Can you
going to be
believe it?
closed, lads. I'm going to be busy. But maybe we're
We're
talking about
making a
that.
dinner.
Maybe we're talking about that as we do our films of 2024. Um, we have the In Search of Darkness 90s documentary due this
Oh
year
yeah,
coming
of
up.
course.
We have, well, I'll tell you what, this is a perfect moment to segue into some of the things we're doing this month. In that I'm also looking forward to the horror and video games documentary, which is being produced by the team that you interviewed their
Yeah,
producer last couple of weeks ago, right?
yeah. Producer Daniel Richardson, who's also going to be joining us at the end of this month for an episode covering House of the Dead. We're talking about Terabytes, of course, the video game documentary.
Terabytes, that's the name.
Terabytes. But yeah, so he's gonna be joining us for House of the Dead, another
Yeah.
Uwe Boll film.
What have we got for the rest of this month? Before I talk about other things that
Oh yeah.
we've got suggestions and I would like to cover this year. What's already lined up for January? I know, but tell
So
them.
yeah, I'll tell. Who's them then? Who's them?
Everyone that
So
isn't you.
next week, Night Swim, haunted swimming pool. Can you believe it? This is a Blumhouse atomic monster thing, isn't it? Um, looks pretty interesting. Going to be checking that out this week. Uh, cannot believe it. No armbands allowed.
No one
We
man's
all need
allowed.
armbands actually. And after that we've got High Tension, the French slasher movie, which I've seen before, but always happy to revisit it. Um, Society as well. We're going to be covering the
Yeah,
body horror 80s movie, a nice cutting satire. Um, I've never seen it. Have you seen it?
me either.
It's a
But
brand new one for
potential
us.
guest who'll reveal once we've confirmed if their schedule works out. They're a big fan of it. They recommended it.
Awesome. That's what we
If
want.
you're in tune enough, they recommended it in an interview with me. Who are
Oh,
they?
there
Will
we
they be
go.
available? They're trying to work it out.
This is a
Um,
quiz episode. Uh, and then, as I mentioned, obviously, Dan Richardson, Terabytes, the producer of Terabytes, will be joining us for House of the Dead at the end of the month. Obviously, had to do a movie made about a video game. Um, so there we go. Looking forward to it. January's looking stacked,
yeah,
and we'll start making plans for new movies. And again, if there's something we haven't covered in 300 almost 20 episodes, give us a
let us
suggestion.
know. Well, I got a couple. I got a couple in that I could read out. I know that regular listener Troy has been on and suggested he's been talking about the serpent and the rainbow for a little while. So
Oh yeah,
I really
no,
want to
yeah, that's been mentioned a few times.
check that one out. I know our friend Danny Taylor's been on to recommend The Wishmaster, who was mentioned in the quiz. So,
Yes, yes,
we
yes.
mentioned in it as well that in a film that has Tony Todd, Angus Scrimm, um, you know, Kane Hodder is in
Robert
it,
England,
Robert
is he in it?
England is in it.
Yeah.
None of them as the lead villain. The Wishmaster's got something special going on. It's very
Oh yeah.
90s. But other things, I was really inspired by some of the questions that we had. So maybe we won't get to all of these, but my long list of things when I was making a quick list for today that I would love to do some of these as episodes this year. Let me rattle some off for you. The Puppet Master, Dolls, a Warlock film, Witchboard 2 specifically.
Oh
Moving on with the Freddy and Jason franchises to see if we
yeah.
can't get a little bit further into them. Possessor, we talked about during the course of today's episode.
Hmm.
Shakma, get some more ape horror up here.
Oh yes.
Sleepaway Camp 2, The Hollow Man, The Hollow Man featuring full frontal male nudity, which means, of course, it can only be an episode where we invite Alice Taylor Matthews to come and join us again. Um,
Yeah.
Amityville 2,
Yeah.
obviously,
Need to do that.
Dan Freaklin is part of Paradolia, which we enjoyed this year. So Amityville 2, my recent run of the series, possibly my favorite one. Frankenhooker, I absolutely insist we have to do an episode
Oh
on. It is
yes.
incredible. I want to cover more foreign language films. We're doing a French one this month. Want
Yep.
to get some more of that done so we can appreciate things that maybe wouldn't land on our desks normally. And then all sorts of events and things like that. Fright Fest, we want to make sure we're at in some kind of capacity. Depends how quick we can book those tickets again this year. But also, there's a Glasgow event early in the year. We want to try and cover that in some to some degree. Good friends over at the DCA. I want to be seeing what they're doing for their Done Dead lineup and covering that at various points in the year.
Hmm.
Dead Northern, we'd like to be
Dead
at this
Northern as
year.
well. Yeah.
Lots of things as far as our calendars and budgets will allow. We want to be in as many of these things as we can
Hmm.
to bring you because I feel like now that our things we've enjoyed for the year has been slightly skewed by event cinema and things that we can kind of give people a little forward look to, and maybe some of our top films of one year, which some people might not get to see to the following one, need to keep up that pace and catch up even more of them. I really need to
Yeah.
check out Old Sarah of Horrors Festival that's online now as well,
Oh yeah. Of course.
and pick up some of her content that she's recommended.
Loads of
So
stuff to check out.
we
I,
are
ca-
in for a very exciting year. How about you, Ben? Are there any films that have
I
been
mean,
burning you in the background?
everything you suggested is great. I agree wholeheartedly. Lots of suggestions for films that came up in the quiz. I was like, we should really do an episode on that. So well remembered. Like to do some more foreign language movies as well. Japanese horror is one of them.
Darkwater.
Like to do some sequels. I know we talked about doing Rec 2. at one point
Yes.
as
Never
well.
seen Rec 2, you know?
Be good to get some good sequels on there. And in terms of new movies, obviously there's gonna be a new Alien movie, Alien Romulus, A Quiet Place Day One, Terrifier 3. All of these things. Obviously, we never done Terrifier as a mainline episode, so
Maybe Terrifier, eh?
maybe, because we got some stuff to say about that. We're not universally big fans of it, so that could make for an interesting episode.
Yeah. Maybe
Um,
I'll watch it and be like, oh, you know what? Now we've talked about it for a couple of hours. That usually what gets me there.
that's got me. If it gets you there, it gets you anywhere. Um, but yeah, tell us what your favorite film of 2023 was. We've already asked on Instagram and Twitter, and lots of interesting responses already. People have been saying, "Talk to me when evil lurks." Evil Dead Rise, Infinity Pool's been mentioned, Scream 6 has been mentioned, Skinnamarink been mentioned.
Oh, nice.
Um, Thanksgiving, as I already mentioned, Stephen Christopher it was his favorite. Suitable Flesh, Knock at the Cabin. Someone said we didn't even mention that as a
Knock at the
disappointment,
Cabin was
or
on my list for a large portion of the year, but
was
it
it?
got bumped. Yeah,
It
early
got
days,
bumped. See you
early in the
later, mate.
year.
All the best. Last Voyage of the Demeter.
I
That's
think
on
that
there. And
was
you know what?
I think that
Ain't
was
so
one of my
bad.
disappointments in that it didn't do as well as it should have because I thought it was
Yeah,
perfectly good.
it
I
was all
think it
right,
got really buried.
Yeah, it did. But there we go. That's it. So now we look forward to 2024. Thanks everybody for listening in 2023. I hope you continue listening in 2024. If this is your first time listening to Horror Hangout, you've got lots and lots to look forward to. An episode every single week plus bonus content. That is amazing, right? Um, so yeah, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, become a patron over at patreon.com/horror hangout. Thanks to all of our current patrons on there. Thanks to Taj Easton for our theme music. Thanks to Acast for hosting the show. Please consider giving us a rating or review and head over to the Facebook group Horror Hangout Board of Advisors for more. We are on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Discord. Just search Horror Hangout Podcast. You'll find us. And as I already mentioned, next week we're talking about bloody haunted swimming pool. Night swim.
The night swim.
I don't like swimming at night. I'd much rather swim in the day. Much less scary.
Would you be more scared
I've
of
just done the
sharks in
outro.
the day or the night?
Oh, the night. The unseen. No. I would never go in the sea at night. Dead against it. I've just done the outro without even inquiring whether you were done.
I'm all done, Ben. You had good instincts. I mean, we've predicted each other's top picks. I think we're
Yeah,
simpatico. We got it
I
down.
did forget about How to Kill Monsters till right at the end, and then I remembered you said it was on your list. So there we go. We will do a little post on socials detailing our top 10. So more in just you can tell us if you thoroughly agree, if you completely disagree, and fire us your top tens or top threes if you ain't got that many in you. And we can have a bit of chat over on social channels. But there we
Yeah.
go.
Get stuck in, guys. Agree, disagree. Make the case for ones that we felt disappointed by. That's all right. We can all we'll get along together. It's not
Yeah.
politics. We have to fight.
No.
Yeah. Get it. Get it. Get your messages over. Like I think we've had overall. Would you say a good year for horror, Ben?
Yeah, I think
A
so. I
good year
think
for new horror.
a good year for new horror, not a great year for franchise horror, but it's kind of to be expected at sometimes. But yeah,
This
focus
is
on
how
the
this
good,
is how these things come back stronger.
definitely. Okay then.
Jason Blum, give me a call. Give us Freddie. We'll sort it out.
We'll sort it out. Yeah, Boo Year's Eve, followed by that's the big debut, followed by a reboot of A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, we prove
Uh,
ourselves with an absolute banger of a new idea, and then they'll give us a franchise.
they will. Okay, right. See you next time.
See you
Thanks for
later,
listening, everyone.
everybody. Bye for now. Happy New Year. Happy Boo Year.
Happy Boo Year. Goodbye.